America.
That was a quick intro. Like, I guess we got to be late all the time, and it zooms it back in faster. So, Jason had to take a quick pee break. So welcome everyone to. Come on. This is a.
We're just doing it. We're going live.
Live. So we got Jason back in the house. He's been here before as a guest, so can't be more happy to have you back as a guest on the podcast. You've hung out behind the scenes, but glad to have you. So if you've seen from the podcast and what's going on right now, I'm with former Army Staff Sergeant, medically retired, right?
Yes, sir.
Jason Ratliff. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Episode 47. Glad you could squeeze it in between your bathroom breaks, all those drinks you're having. And
I gotta go to some agency, get some help soon. So yeah, making time for you. I'm glad you guys made time for me.
No, glad to have you here. It's a privilege. Like I said, it's good to have you here. And your entourage. He has a huge entourage. He rolls with a big group of people. He's got some ladies here, making sure he says the right thing. A lot of pressure on Jason tonight, not me, which is good. So
yeah.
Before we get started with you, we'll start off with a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. In this war, which was total in every sense of the word, we have seen many great changes in military science. It seems to me that not the least of these was the development of psychological warfare as a specific and effective weapon. Little psyops.
Little psyop there.
Little psyops there. So I kind of throw it away. They will talk about it. I hope that it's a little psyops later, as much as you can talk about it. It's always fun to have any of the people that have done stuff like that. Before they're like, we might not be able to talk about some stuff. Get over yourself. No, I'm kidding. We'll be fine now. But yeah, so Jason's had a long career. We'll get into that. But a lot of your time was spent, I think, in the PSYOPs. Some formative time.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time in training, but when I finally made it on the other end of that, the last half of my career was in PSYOPs.
We'll get into that. So, like many people on the podcast from Ohio, but you did spend a year in Pennsylvania.
I grew up. Yep, I had 1 year in Pennsylvania when I was like 8, and that was.
Do you remember anything about it?
So it was, I think it was 1996. They had a blizzard, so we had 8 feet of snow.
96, 8 years old.
Yep. So that was, that was a lot of fun for me. A lot of tunnels, a lot of my sisters sabotaging my, creations. But yeah, that's really what I remember. And like the school I went to was very different because I grew up like inner city in Columbus.
Okay.
Went there. It was more of a wealthy community. And then when I came back to Ohio, it was like trailer parks. So I was like, dude, Pennsylvania was awesome.
I need to go back. It was so much better. No, so you came back, grew up in Lincoln County.
Yes, sir.
So like you said, you explain that again, trailer park a little bit? No.
Yeah, so there's this really nice estate called Buckeye Lake Estates, but it's a trailer park. The great thing about a trailer park is whenever you're bored, you just ride your bicycle around until you see a house with all the bicycles in front of it, and you just pull up and you're like, this is the door I'm knocking on, and you make new friends every day.
That's where everything's happening.
Yeah.
Those days, it's still the same though. Everyone's so.
Oh no, not at all.
Like the bike. Well,
maybe in the trailer park because maybe they don't have cell phones. Nah, that's not true.
Everybody
has a cell phone. So
just have a cell phone. Yeah, there's nobody riding bikes anymore to get together. They're like, man, it's kind of weird. So you high school times, what was that like? You moved, you said a couple different school districts, Newark and then Lakewood.
Yeah, I bounced back and forth between the two a few times. I think it was like 8th grade in Newark City schools. Then, 9th grade, I was in Lakewood, then also in Newark. And I just kept going back and forth. But I spent my entire senior year at Lakewood High School, and that's where I graduated from.
So like many of us right out of high school, you head to the military?
Yes, sir.
So what prompted that? Anybody in your family in the military? Or
my grandfather was, but that wasn't in my decision-making process at all. 9th grade, first semester, I'm in geography class, 9/11 happens. Felt like something just anybody that watched it happen, you thought like, I would love to help do something about this. And that was really where my decision came from. I don't know who said it, but there's a quote that stuck with me. A true patriot is that who is capable and does. And that was what I felt like. I felt like I was capable, so I tried. So
you graduated in 2005, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a different time. We've had several guests that, 9/11 happened in a pretty formative time of your life where you see the world change in front of you.
Yep.
Unlike, old timers like me, I'd already been in for many years, 6 years at that point. So the different vibe. So you decided to join the Army. Was that your first choice?
Yeah, Army was my first choice. I wanted infantry at least I thought I did. In 2005, I actually enlisted as a cavalry scout. So I went to Fort Knox, and I was in basic training there, and I got hurt. I got the boot, and then I was out for about a year, and then joined again, lying through my teeth, and had a really good recruiter that was good at paperwork, and managed to come back in. So
let's talk about that. So that's the first. That's going to be a theme. Is that the first
theme? The theme through my entire career.
The whole career in this podcast.
And past it, apparently.
Yeah. And injuries. Yeah, because you just had a surgery, didn't you? I think, this in the past month or so. So you get hurt, you get discharged from the military.
Yep.
So this is something one day you talked about. You had a desire to go help.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get your first kick in the balls to say, like, what was going through your mind then?
So really, like, so I'd had a shoulder surgery. I got injured during wrestling that year in high school, my senior year, and I didn't allow it to have enough time to heal. And in basic training, doing a push-up contest with my buddies, my shoulder ended up ripping, like, the anchors that I had in there caused a little bit of damage. And if I'm truly honest with myself, looking back on it, I was just afraid, because when I competed for everything, you're doing your push-up contests, you're doing your runs, you're doing all that stuff. I was like top couple of guys. And then now with this injury, I'm middle of the pack, towards the back of the pack. And the fear like compounded. And that was really where, they were like, hey, we can give you a surgery while you're still in and see if you can bounce back and go back through basic training, or you can go home. And I, with, my 18-year-old strong-headed mind, I was like, oh no, I'm done. I'm going home. Shortly after I got home and reflecting on that, I was like, okay, I felt like I messed up. I felt like there was a lot of unfinished business. I went to work as a temp in some of the manufacturing plants here in Columbus, Ohio, which is a lot of them. And I was like, all right, you got to go back. You got to finish this. If you're going to do anything, you're going to do this right. And like I said, I had a recruiter that was awesome, and he understood. And it was during the surge, still. So they worked with me and they got me back in. And
so how quick did that realization happen that you'd not made the best decision?
I was in hold still in basic training before I got home. I was like, oh my gosh.
What did I just
I just felt different. I felt different from the other guys. I heard their mentalities about their approach to getting out, and they were already like talking trash about the Army and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this feels wrong. Just everything felt off. So
what was everybody back? What was like the vibe from people, friends, home? You go away. Are they like, were they supportive? What was that like?
They were unfortunately very proud of me, which I did not like, because again, it felt more towards that guilt direction, and I'm like, people, in my family, thank you for your service. I didn't do anything, like I went to basic training and essentially in my head, I'm like, I quit. So I had a lot of support. I lived with my parents for a brief period when I first got out, and, that was different, but it was okay. And it felt like safer than it probably should have, but I did, I knew like I had to go back in. So
the support you got, do you think it helped you, or what did it give you, propel you to maybe finish what you started, or was it just kind of pushed aside?
Yeah. I mean, I love my family and I appreciate them for all the support in that period, but I think the decision was made for me before I even like stepped foot.
Before you left Knox?
Yeah. I was really frustrated and confused. And I honestly, at the time, like to admit my fear in that situation and try and have surgery and bounce back, I was still, it was just too much for me at that time. And I was like, okay, you can deal with this still on your way out. But
yeah, and I don't mean to laugh, but I think if anybody's, it's been, you've been 18 years old and you make a decision, like, you're not even 100. I mean, everybody says that, but I don't think you really 100% sure in your decision at the very beginning of going. So there's always doubt that you made the wrong decision in the first place. So yeah, and your 18-year-old brain is working completely different than, I get it. I can see how that at the time was what you think is the right decision.
Yeah, 100%. I was just I'm a boy, I was a boy at the time, and I tried to make a man decision, but couldn't stick to it is really what it was.
Well, I mean, you made the right decision though. You went, you joined back.
Yep.
You convinced the recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Thank gosh for the surge, right?
Yeah. Thank God for
thank God for waivers.
Yeah.
No, but which has changed. The Army's changed. I mean, have you ever thought about that? Maybe like 10 years ago, or 10 years prior to that, would they have let you back in? Or
I mean, if I had that recruiter, yeah. I mean, no, and I've thought about it, but I've had you know, like you briefly touched on, I've had so many bumps in the road when it comes to my like capability, my physical capability at certain times in my life where I wasn't up to that standard. But it's so much better once you're in. Once you're in, there's so many resources that will take care of you. If sometimes you have to seek them out for sure. But you know, I was never concerned about losing my job or getting kicked out of the Army. When I left the Army, it was on my terms, and that was me taking like real control of my decisions at that point. So,
because you're getting all grown up. Look at that. You're still a boy though. We're all still boys, I think.
There's a I'm 14. There's a 14-year-old in here somewhere.
You just turned 36. So belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
36 or 37?
37.
37 yesterday. So happy birthday. And we're talking about birthdays, not to interrupt, but today's my dad's birthday.
Hey, happy birthday, Dad.
He couldn't make it. I like giving him a hard time. He's usually here, not supporting me, but he's prepping for a colonoscopy. So
that's a great time.
I had to throw that out to do so.
That's a great
time.
Right
now, he's miserable. Hopefully, he's listening. You can do it, Dad. I believe in you. No, happy birthday to my dad. Sorry he can't be here, and happy belated birthday to you. But so you go back, you rejoin in 07. We'll go back to you. This time you join up as an infantryman?
Yes.
Okay. You finally got what you wanted. So
well, small caveat. Okay. So the recruiting station. So at this time I live in Lancaster, Ohio. Lancaster, if you're from there.
Say that again for everybody who's not from there.
Lancaster, if you're from there. Lancaster, if you leave there.
Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the recruiting stations were side by side. The Army recruiter was at lunch because it was 10 o'clock in the morning. So I went over to the Marine station and I was like, hey, this is my situation. And they're like, you'd never make it through boot camp. I was like, awesome. Went next door.
I'll wait till he gets back from lunch.
Went next door and met the best recruiter, known to man. So, but
the Marines. Marines always selling out though. They're always, come on. It's not that.
I mean, I've worked with all branches of the Army. I respect the Marines for what they are. The mentality is necessary.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
There's no. I think that the Marine Corps always has that mental part, like you talk about. That they just drink the Kool-Aid. It's the best thing.
Oh yeah.
It's like they started when they were like 10, and they continue to drink it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for them though.
Oh, you talking about the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
Then talking when if you eavesdrop, they're like the Marine Corps sucks, dude. Like it is what it is. But Marine Corps. I mean, the Marine Corps is better than the Air Force, right? Or the Navy.
It depends on what you value in life, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably true. The Navy is probably better than the Air Force. When you think about it, but no one's gonna admit that on air. Oh yeah, we just did. But so you go back to recruiting. You find a recruiter, helps you get into the MOS you want, which is being infantryman.
11 Bravo. Yep.
So you head back to Benning. You had the Benning this time.
I was at Benning. Yeah.
Okay.
I was at Benning.
Fort Moore. That's the new name of it, Fort Moore. We need to get into it's 2024. Fort Moore.
Fort
Benning.
Fort Moore Benning.
Yeah, Fort Benning / Moore. I don't know, but yeah. So you head there and then do all your infantry training there.
Yep.
Right? So
one station unit training. Yep.
No injuries there though. You did okay there or no?
I had one instance where I was taken away in an ambulance. It was during combatives level 1. I was lucky enough to be the PG of our platoon going through training. And when we did the clinch drill, I was the first one up. So of course, all right, here's another thing about me. I'm a little mouthy at times. All right. I grew up small, real small. I hit puberty in the Army. All right. But I've always had a little bit of a mouth on me. And the drill sergeants are like, all right, Rat, you're going first. And you get, I don't even remember the drill sergeant's name, but if you saw him, you'd never forget what he looks like. He was a real big guy. And I got the clinch, but he shook me off one time, and my arm got caught up in his VDU top, and it pulled a muscle in my neck. So when I tried to get up, I was like, "Ooh," and they're like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I tried to get up again. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna call a squad. We think you hurt your neck." And I was like, "I think you're right," So, but other than that, smooth sailing. Undergrad.
So when that happened, were you nervous at all because of what happened to you before? No. Was there? You just knew it was a kind of a.
No, I think, and we talked about this just before we started the podcast. I have an issue with fear where I take fear as like a challenge, and that I went through that phase during like my process of getting back into the Army, where I'm not going to be afraid to where it cripples me like I used to be, Mm-hmm. So getting hurt, I'm like, whatever, dude, we can fix this. I've already had a couple surgeries at this point. I I wasn't afraid about my Army career or anything. I knew like what the process was like already. All the things that I've done in my life where I got to do it twice, that fear is almost zero when you're going through it the second time. So I had no fear going through basic training that second time at all. I wasn't afraid of the drill sergeants yelling at me. I wasn't afraid of getting hurt. I wasn't afraid of recovering from anything.
Like, I've got this guy. So
yeah, it's just like, okay, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to miss my family, but I'm going to go.
The 2 times. That made a nickname for you.
Old Jason 2 times.
2 times. No, but 2 times basic training, 2 times AI. No. But I mean, it happens to a lot of people. I mean, we're going to get going on. He has a pretty interesting story that I've been waiting to talk about. So it's a good one. So
okay.
you leave there. You head to, you finish up at Fort Benning, head out to beautiful Fort Lewis, Washington.
Yes, sir.
Get assigned to the 1st of the 23rd Infantry Battalion.
Yep.
2ID.
Yeah. The old Indian head.
I was in 2ID in Korea, the real 2ID.
That's not the real 2ID.
Come on, dude.
There's you have so many rules in Korea.
It's like prison, dude. You're in prison.
You're so far from the flagpole at Fort Lewis. It's the good old boy system.
Yeah, that's true.
When I showed up to my unit, first off, I show up. I'm in processing at battalion, and this guy walks in with a snaggletooth. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
Okay. I probably already have. All right. This guy walks in, and there's 3 of us sitting there. He's like, "Hey, fuck sticks." He's like, Who wants to join recon? I'm like, don't know what that is. So I just raised my hand. I'm like, yeah, let's go. But they gave me a packing list. The very next day I show up and I do a reconnaissance selection for a week. They're like, we only need 2 people. There's like 20 people that showed up. And it ends with me and another guy in ghillie suits that we had made, just rolling around in the mud with them hosing us off. One guy quits and they're like, you're done? He's like, yeah, I quit. I'm like, all right, you 2 stand up. Welcome to recon. I'm like, awesome. All right. Army's great. The person they put in charge of me, I knew did not care about my life. I was like, this guy does not care if I'm alive or dead.
What made you think that?
Oh, so
what rank was this?
He was a sergeant.
Okay.
They're terrifying. Okay.
Yeah.
He had an accent, and I'm like, oh, you from New York? He's like, what? I'm from fucking Boston. Do push-ups, you know? And he's like, oh, have you been to Ranger School? You ain't been through mountain phase? Elevate those feet, you know? So I'm getting jacked up, and I'm like, this is not fun. Haven't even been, like, I don't even know where I live yet. I'm already getting jacked up.
But I mean, I wonder if it's still the same though. I mean,
maybe there.
Yeah.
Not in Korea. Korea's probably not.
Oh, come on. I've been in Korea and how many? But Korea was different though. Korea's the 2ID it's different over there. I mean, you know, I mean, you guys are way in Fort Lewis, you know, way off on the West Coast doing whatever. But I don't think when I was in the 2ID though, they weren't. I don't think Lewis was part of that yet. We didn't have the strikers. So that's an old line, but yeah. But we know where the real 2ID is. It's okay. But we'll keep going on that. So you deploy. You're there for a little bit. Who you did the deployment with was 2ID?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Deployed in 2009, 2010 to Iraq. We were in northeastern Iraq, pretty close to the Iranian border.
Right. And
we got tasked out with the Brigade ARF mission, Aerial Reaction Force.
Okay.
And then it ended up becoming all of USD North, I think is what they called it. So we were like a QRF in helicopters for the majority of that deployment, which was pretty cool because at that time in 2009, there weren't many things going wrong unless we made a mistake and made things go wrong. But we got to be involved in a lot of, you know, like HVT pickups and, you know, Bolo vehicles popping up and things like that. So it was a lot more interesting to be in that platoon than almost any other unit that was over there at that time.
Right. So you had a couple years of train up or at Lewis before you deployed then, or how long was that?
I mean, it was, you know, a little over a year. We did a lot of like NTC. We did 2 NTC rotations. We would go down to Camp Pendleton and do what we called lava training down there. They had an Iraqi emergent trainer facility where I think it was like 1 million square foot warehouse where we'd go through and clear villages and stuff. But we definitely like worked our tails off, earning our spot in that platoon so that we could go do like good work overseas. But.
So yeah, because we have several, you know, we've had several guests on that time frame to put it in perspective. A lot of people were, you know, got to units and like, you know, a month later we're deploying with units or actually showing up with units that are already overseas. So, so you guys had time as a unit to kind of build. Yeah, build as a team and get to know everybody before you punched out.
Yeah, and that first 6 months, you know, they had just gotten back from a deployment right when I got there, so they were still within that first like 3 or 4 months when I got there. So that first 6 months that I was there was a lot of changes in leadership, a lot of changes in style. We almost had our mission diverted from the Iraq mission to the Afghanistan mission. They ended up pushing that over to 520 infantry, which was like, if you know Fort Lewis, that's North Fort. I was on Fort Lewis proper, as we called it. But yeah, there was a lot of like what ifs and, a wide fan of training that we would conduct before we went out there.
So what was it like showing up to unit where guys just come back from an overseas deployment? What was that like?
Interesting. And I really only had one, aside from like in my own leadership, which I think they just hated me until they could love you. But there's one instance where I went to visit a buddy that in his barracks, and I forget which unit he was in, but a different battalion. And one of their sergeants who was on staff duty was doing his barracks walk. And he was like, "Who are you?" And I was in civilians. It's like a Friday night. And I told him my name. He's like, "How about you stand at parade rest? I don't see no CIB on your chest." I was like, "Okay, here we go." Yeah. So I ended up getting kicked out of the barracks that night, but that's fine.
Did you say anything to him about it, or did you? You said you had a.
Yeah, I said Roger Sergeant and walked out.
Yeah, but how did you? Did you have? What about your leadership? What about like your sergeant, your squad leaders? With those guys all prior combat experience? So.
Oh yeah, so the reconnaissance platoon, all the leadership had tabs. Quite a few guys were battalion guys for whatever reason, usually on the civilian side of things, they got kicked out. So yeah, the rules were strict. The platoon sergeant, Sergeant Fluxstick, as I mentioned earlier, he was an RI right before he came to us. So we had very strict rules. If there was work to do, we were going to do the work. So, we always had a bag ready to go. We'd go in the field on a moment's notice. But if there wasn't work, they would kick us out, make us go home, and they would just take their turns getting their ass chewed out, second squad, it's your turn. Squad leader's getting his ass chewed out for sending the guys home today. But that's just how they did it. And
so did you ever ask them what their motivation was to send you guys home?
No, but I understand it. It was honestly that mentality and that approach to work, being super strict all the time, but always working to the standard and not to time. That set me up for special operations down the road. I understood the importance of getting the job done, but not being there, just so if an AKO class pops up that we can get it done on, before everybody else. We weren't worried about being first. We were just worried about being the best. Yeah,
because the military is one of the biggest wasters of time that's possible. If you've never been, it's one of the things. Hurry up and wait, or all that kind of thing. Even at a leadership level, I've always told some stories where, if your company commander stayed till 9 o'clock at night, and because they didn't want to go home, they had a shitty marriage or whatever, like you were expected, someone wanted you to stay there till 9 o'clock. If you left before that, you got a rash of shit. And you're like, well, I want to go home. I have friends I want to do. So, it's interesting to watch that. You hear a lot of places where it got to that part where leaders have said, okay, listen, if you don't need to be here, you don't need to be here, instead of just sitting around with,
and we had the most
people's time.
Yeah, we had the most senior leadership at every position. Every squad leader had already been a squad leader in one of the line companies. In headquarters, we had the most senior, CO. We had the most senior first sergeant. The battalion sergeant major was our old platoon sergeant. Everybody was on the same page. And I don't know if it started with, his name was Sergeant First Class Gerald. He was the platoon sergeant. I don't think it started with him. I think it was Sergeant Major Sobiak, who's now retired, and he's still so involved. And you can see like the seeds that he's planted and the mentality that he had and his approach to serious work. It's really bled down into the people that, followed him. And, we followed him because we had to, but then we wanted to follow him because he was awesome.
Yeah. When did that switch go on? When did it go from following him because you're afraid of him or you have to respect him?
So, I respected Gerald the entire time. Unfortunately, he got himself into a situation. So we had a leadership switch right at the beginning of our deployment. But all the leadership just below that level, all the squad leaders, our platoon sergeant, our PL, they were all still the same guys, and they just continued to foster that culture. And I think it was during that deployment and seeing my sergeant major constantly checking in on us, because like I said, we were the busy platoon. We had things happen to us that other platoons didn't have happen to them. And, his genuine care and his approach to, how we were going to conduct our work on his discretion, what he was passing down to platoon sergeants and the platoon leader. That was when I was like, okay, this guy's got us. At least he's got us. And then I saw that same reflection in our squad leaders. And, one of them is still one of my best friends in the world. And yeah, that good old boy system switched in my head to, okay, some of these guys are like super solid guys.
So they know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Yeah, they were good dudes.
Exactly. So you have an interesting deployment. You call yourself, you've said it tonight, and you also put it in your bio that while you were in Iraq, you decided to become how did you say it? A board baby? So
you said decided. That was not my words. Okay.
I know.
Yeah, we took turns. You know, it was, you know, somebody's turn to be soldier of the month. That we still conducted them, even though, like I said, the other platoons, the other companies weren't doing the same job that we were doing. My name came up on the list, and they're like, all right, you're gonna go do soldier of the month board. I'm like, okay. Well, I don't like being told what to do, first off, which is weird in the Army. So when I get a task, I try and learn everything about it so that I knock it out of the water and I don't have to get corrected as many times.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So when they told me you're going to try and
become like a know-it-all, like then you know it all.
Oh, people hated me for it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my Ranger handbook was like always in my pocket, constantly. But it was my turn, so I went to Soldier of the Month. I think the question actually was like recite the Ranger Creed, and I hadn't been to Ranger school at the time, and they were like recite the Ranger Creed, and I was like, okay, I can sing, you know, let's do this. Yeah. So I won that, and then so it's do a board, go on missions, come back, do another board, go on missions, to the point where they're like, all right, so you're actually the best we got right here in Iraq right now, so you're gonna go back home, you know, 3 weeks early, and you're gonna compete for the Soldier of the Year for First Corps, which is Fort Lewis. So I went and did that, and I won that. And then when all the guys got back, like I got more focused on mission training for the next thing. I was juggling around like Ranger Battalion in my head. I really wanted to go to Ranger school. We didn't have the budget for it, which I didn't understand at the time. And then I was juggling around Special Forces and also like dropping a flight packet. So I knew I wanted something else. And then, yeah, but that's the board baby stuff.
So going back to the board baby stuff, like leaving 3 weeks early, what was your mentality that, you know, you didn't really want to do it in the first place?
Yeah.
You've put yourself in a position where now you've excelled, and now you have to go do this. What was it like I mean, were you happy to get out of there early? I mean, honestly, or were you pissed off? Or
so I had mixed feelings. I definitely didn't like leaving early for my guys. You know, there's bonds in that kind of situation. You know, I grew really close to these guys. We're all so different, but we would do anything for each other, literally anything, including like, you know, chew each other out when you mess up. You know, if you weren't,
I thought you were gonna say hi to Body, but
yeah,
you went told
hi to Body.
You're like, we would. I mean,
we did not
chew each other out, hold each other accountable.
No.
He really meant hi to Body, like
but so I have a 14-year-old daughter now, and at the time, she was born while I was deployed. So I met her when she was 2 weeks old, and being offered an opportunity to go home 3 weeks early and see 3 more weeks of her life, that softened the blow quite a bit, you know. So I just accepted it for what it was. I'm super excited to go home and spend time with my daughter. I'm super disappointed that I can't be here for these last 3 weeks and these last, 4 or 5 missions with my guys. Luckily, nothing terrible happened with my crew that was out there, and I was successful on the board, and I got to be 3 more weeks involved with my daughter's life. So,
and you won. You become Soldier of the Year.
Yeah, I was First Corps Soldier of the Year.
What do you get for that?
Again, you get a lot, actually. I got gift cards. I got savings bonds. I got laptops. I got medals and trophies. My coin case is impressive.
Did you get to fly around a helicopter? Or did they give you?
I didn't get to fly around in a helicopter for that, but I got to go to a Seahawks versus New York Giants game in like one of the suites.
Oh, cool!
It was my first and only NFL game I've ever been to. It was like the Bud Light box. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was. I mean.
I really didn't think they gave anything. I was like,
oh my God.
I thought the football tickets. Holy shit! Like,
yeah.
So there's motive right there.
Yeah.
Anybody do it? You can win. You can win a laptop.
Yeah.
Laptops, like plural.
Yeah.
You said like how many laptops?
2. That's enough to be plural. But yeah, it's 2.
I mean, I'm thinking like one's enough. I mean,
no,
they don't have the budget to send you to Ranger School, but they give you 2 laptops. So.
Well, so that money's so the brigade is who pays. Yeah, the brigade is who pays for your schools.
I'm good.
All right. No, but yeah, I mean, it was neat. And then I got to go to ForceCom Soldier of the Year competition. I was the runner up there. And then I got invited to monitor the U.S. Army like Soldier of the Year competition.
So after all joking aside, you get tasked to do something, which happens in the military. You don't always want to do it. The people that excel at it are the people that, okay, I've got to do this. Even though I don't want to do it, I'm going to make the best of it, which sounds like what you did.
Yeah.
You end up winning. How did you feel about yourself after you won? Were you happy with it? Or, I mean, was there a sense of accomplishment or
what's
what
that
was it like?
What's that syndrome people have where it's not called phony syndrome, but it's something where like, you know what I'm talking about. Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have that constantly where I do something and then I think about all the corners I cut and I'm like, I didn't deserve that, So I felt that for sure. And I still just wanted more. Like I kept bringing up Ranger School. I was like, let's go. I want to do something. And that point of my career where I was watching what I was able to do with just me and the support of a few pushed me into a direction where I was like, okay, I love the Army, but I can't count on the unit to take care of the things I really want. So that was when I decided to make the switch. So that's really where that came from, was, going through that process and giving my all in the name of a unit that for whatever reason couldn't or wouldn't give me what I wanted in return. Was like, okay, I need to go somewhere else then. Because I just really wanted to stretch my legs and see how far I could
something
go.
different, right?
Yeah.
So you decided to take a leap towards the special operations move, and so 2011 you attend SFAS.
Yes, sir.
In beautiful Fort Liberty.
Bragg.
Fort Liberty. We're not in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Just kidding around.
This is wild.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is now, man. It's 2024. That's what it is. They got signs that say Fort Liberty. It's like, it's the weirdest thing.
I saw somebody post like, "Oh, I just got orders for Fort Greg Adams or Greg Abbott."
I don't even know where the hell that
I had to Google it.
What is that?
Fort Lee, Virginia.
Oh, yeah, I think I knew that. I didn't know that. Yeah, well, that's a whole.
Yeah,
I mean, we can talk about that if you want. I think I personally think it's stupid. I mean, I feel like the people that I never met anybody. I never had a conversation with anybody that I was in where anybody talked about the name of the post and how they were offended by it. And I understand where it comes back to Confederate stuff, but I never heard any. And trust me, if you're in the military, soldiers, Marines, airmen, they can bitch about everything. Like, they bitch about everything. They bitch about fucking everything. Like, I mean, that's the way to put it. But like, I never heard anybody complain about, oh my gosh, I can't believe I live in a place where it's named after a former Confederate general. I'm like, I would challenge, like, what % of military people even know who Braxton Bragg is? Like,
right.
I mean,
that's
kind of how I look at it. But I mean, that's just fine. Get me off my soapbox of.
Yeah, I mean, the people that could say that they're affected by that do not look like me, so I understand that, right?
No, it's true. I look at it like, for example, for me, for Fort Bragg is a big one because my middle son was born there. Like, I had somebody tell me, we were talking about this conversation. They said, well, he was born in Fayetteville. And I was like, no, he wasn't born in Fayetteville. He was born in Fort Bragg. Yeah. And they're like, no, Fort Bragg's not its own city. And I was like, it actually was. Yeah. But I mean, now it's not. But so I think there's a part of it that it's for, guys like me that, as the new generation goes on, that's what they're going to know it as, right? Like,
it's the history.
If you're showing up to like Fort Moore right now, like, don't get me wrong, Fort Moore, great man to name it after. I think that's a great.
Yeah, it's not saying that
like some of them were great. Like, the other part about Liberty is like it's the stupidest fucking name. Like, I mean, there's so many special operations guys.
Oh man,
PSYOPs guys, 82nd guys that like they could have named that after.
Absolutely.
Like
right.
Like Benavides. Like that's where that would have been like.
Oh
man, there's
awesome story.
They're great names, but like that's a part of it. I mean, and I get that, but when you hear people talk about that and like the place that my son was born doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's and maybe it's just uncomfortable, and I think that's where I'm going to tuck my feelings in. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, I'm not. I don't want to be the loudest voice on it either. So it's so interesting. A lot of people have. It's kind of just one of those things that's happened, and they just it moves on. I think the way we talk about it is when we make fun of it. I think when somebody says like Fort Bragg, and you're like, "There's Camp or Fort Liberty," and you're like, "You mean Bragg?" But it is what it is. So you head to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Yep, January 2011.
Beautiful place.
Not then. It sucked. Selection sucked. The weather was terrible.
Bragg sucks anyways. I mean, if you really think
I actually loved it.
But I mean,
I love North Carolina. That's the true Southern people, in my opinion.
I mean, North Carolina is nice, but I mean, it's no military installation is really nice. So I mean, I always talk about Bragg and like I love Bragg these days. Like when we talk about it, and my wife and I always had a joke about it. She's like, "You were never there." You always talk about how great it wasn't. That was true. It wasn't, but it wasn't there.
You're right.
Like,
Good point.
So, but you had there for selections. Yeah, selections is no fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was quick, but just the weather made it terrible. We had a guy the first day, so it snowed and rained, so we had ice and snow all over the place when I went out there. It was not beautiful, sandy North Carolina that I heard about. So we had a guy go down as a heat cat the first event. So then the rest of the selection, they're making us drop our drawers and lift our shirts up and make sure nobody's wearing like polypro. So we're like, okay, this is awesome. So people were quitting just from the cold, and as strong as everybody is when they go there, I was super prepared. I was very ready for it. But like the cold definitely plays a factor. You're like, man, I just want to be comfortable,
And for those that don't know, we've had a couple other guests on that went through the process. So SFAS is the selections portion where you have to make it through and then be selected for follow-on training for Special Forces. So it's open to it's changed a little bit. You have your Special Forces kids right out of basic. They have that. So again, they have
your X-rays.
Usually it's senior, not senior, but first lieutenant, the military and Army, and then you have your seasoned NCOs that are coming through. So it's bringing those different dynamics together and going through selection. So your season sergeant, the last person we had on was actually an X-ray.
Nice.
So what was it like going in as that senior NCO? You had a little bit of experience. I've heard it from the officer view, but like, what was it like being a senior NCO? You've deployed.
Yeah, I mean, there was
some other stuff.
There's a lot more like senior guys to me. I was a sergeant then. And, going through the first few days, everybody's really hesitant because, you hear the stories of, oh, they're in the trees watching you. They're doing all this. They're doing all that. And then like the biggest thing that I figured out was like, just don't self-select, don't, keep your head down. You have to get along with these guys. We do a lot of peer assessments, so if you get pink slips too many times, you're gone anyways. You help out where you can, but we understand it's an individual event. Everything is an individual event. Even team week is an individual event. You do your best. If you feel like you can't go any further, you count on your team. And if you were trying to get more out of your team than what you were giving to them, they're going to let you know when the peer reviews come out. So.
And we've talked about that before. People who haven't listened to other episodes is, you can go all the way through the course and be peered out if they don't like the way if your fellow candidates don't like you, you may not get selected. Yeah. So I'm assuming you got selected.
Yep.
All right. So no problems with that.
No problems with that. I actually smoked it, man. I was so ready. My land nav was tight. Fort Lewis is such a good place to practice land nav. The terrain's not too unfamiliar, from or it's not too different from Fort Bragg or Camp McCall. So yeah, like I had a very euphoric response towards finishing land nav, getting all 5 points the first night. And I just knew, I was so confident. I knew that when they sat me down, they were going to ask me to come to their qualification course. And then just seeing how the quality of the guys that I was with and seeing some of those guys that didn't make it, like that really gave me a boost. I was in my military capability. I was super confident leaving that. But that was, again, one of those situations where I just reflected on my daughter so much going through that process. And I honestly wasn't sure what I was going to do, even with that invitation, once I got back to Fort Lewis. So
you talk about the guys you were with.
Yeah.
Was there any situation where you were surprised that somebody wasn't selected? There's somebody that you were looking at as a peer that was like, this person's killing it.
Yeah.
And wasn't selected. Was there anything like that?
So back to like me growing up small. I have never been too judgmental on people's size, and that has actually helped me out in my life. Just looking at somebody and understanding that that's just the cover of the book. I don't know what's actually written in there. And there were some smaller guys that I was just super impressed with, and they motivated me. Where other guys constantly would make the remarks, "Oh, look, his rucksack's bigger than he is. He's not going to make it." But when you're in situations or in environments where you're looking for the best, 99% of the time, it's about the people who won't quit and that do find a way, instead of the guys that came in with the gift of like a physique that, they don't want to be cold. You know, they don't want to be tired. They don't want to be hungry, and they end up tapping themselves out. So, but yeah, absolutely. I saw tons of guys that you would look at and be like, there's no way it's a special operator. And they're still like some of the best guys in the field today.
All right. So you make it through that. You breeze through SFAS, head back to
no injuries, by the way. And that's
I have it in red. It's like if you look at it here, we start getting injuries.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm joking. Those are just side notes, but no. So it's the second time you're not hurt, which you looks like you broke the trend, but
yeah,
you really didn't. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we're doing.
So you head back to Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
You decide to go to.
I forgot I wrote on one of those too. Yeah.
So you decide to go back. You decide you're going to go the Special Forces right after selection. So how quick are you back to Bragg after you get back to Lewis?
All right. So I had orders for April. So in March at Fort Lewis is when they were doing their post competitions. And I had won the combatives tournament in 2008, and I wanted to do it again this year in 2011. So I competed in that and destroyed my right shoulder, and I ended up having to push until November. So I was in airborne school in November. I showed up at the end of November for the QC in Fort Bragg.
So if I'm a leader at this point in the military, and I'm looking at Sergeant Rat at this time,
yeah,
and you've already got a trend of doing stuff that puts yourself at risk, right, or for injury. So you had your stuff in basic training. You have this incident. Is there anything in your mind that you're like, am I if you're doing the right thing for myself, for you? Are you like, because I would be as leader, like, maybe we're not, maybe you're done with this type of stuff.
If you were my leader, you'd have been like, I'm having a real good time with this guy. I'm going to just let him do what he's going to do. That's what you would have been thinking. This guy's awesome. This is my wild card.
I just want to watch him. Yeah. That may be true, but I would.
Honestly, I was following my PL too.
Did anybody step in and say, "Hey, man, like you need to chill out a little bit. You have your future ahead of you. You have some big things.
Honestly,
that you're going to." Did anybody?
No. Honestly, everybody thought, and I don't know how it is that I portray my pain. I think everybody thinks I'm faking. Honestly, everyone's like, "Oh no, you're not in that much pain." I'm like, "You want me to talk about it more? Like, what do you want me to do? I'm hurt. Right. I have a torn shoulder. I have to have surgery. That sucks. But I never had anybody say, "Hey, man, you need to calm down." Maybe my parents. I'd like to think I listened to them, but they might have said it. I probably wasn't listening.
Well, no, I mean, all joking aside, because I feel like if you get that route, like I understand that it takes a certain mindset. Like we've all been there where we're not listening to what anybody's telling you anyways. But there's like calculated risks you're taking. Like you're going like you've. This is something you want to do. SFAS isn't a given for anybody, right?
Right.
You have a long pipeline after that. Mm-hmm. You want to go into that pipeline the best you can be, right?
Yep.
But it just kind of, as we talk more about it, I guess obviously there was no filter and nobody else was like,
no. And also, I didn't have the hesitation at the time either. I wasn't like, "Hey, man."
Why do you think that was? What was going on in that mindset? I mean, what were you? Why was winning combatives more important than being healthy and prepared to go to the Q course?
They make you wear a uniform with your last name on it. That's why. That's probably all it is. I don't know. And I was bored. Probably. You get a lot of downtime. When you're transitioning from unit to unit. You get like a few weeks or a month, even in some cases, to PCS. And I saw it was popping up, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go do that. And didn't work out. I did not win the tournament, by the way.
Yeah, it'd be a much better story if you won.
Yeah,
but
I did get tapped out by the guy who won, so I'm pretty much second place.
That's what you're sticking to?
Yeah, I'm second. I got second.
We'll talk about 15 minutes. We'll talk more about whether that was worth it or not. But so let's take our first whiskey break. Yes. If you haven't noticed, I'm doing dry January, so I'm not gonna be able to drink with you. You're allowed to drink no matter what your significant other said. I'm looking at her. You're allowed to do anything you want down here, pretty much. I shouldn't have said that to you.
Yeah.
Because we will say no. Anything. Yeah, everyone take anything no. But so we're gonna open the. I'm not gonna partake. I've had Dickel
You said
before.
this already.
I know. So I just want to be like, it's.
He's really not doing it, guys.
No, I'm really not doing it. Yeah.
This is not a ploy.
Yeah, I'm really doing dry January unless the people I know that aren't doing it, they're like, I only drink once, or I'm only drinking on Sundays. I'm actually going to make it through this. And no, most people I don't have a problem. That's not why, that's not that's the funny thing about dry January. You say you're going to do it, people think you have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing because I have a problem being overweight, so I'm trying to kickstart some other stuff. But I do not have a drinking problem. That's not why I'm doing it. I just want to put that out there. But because I don't understand why I'm doing dry January. Anyway, every kid's asking me. That's a real part of it. Maybe that's why I'm doing it. It's the stupidest thing, but I'm doing it.
I saw it on Instagram. It sounded like a good idea.
No, I've done it before. I think the most of them, but it's like, gosh, what am I doing? Like, it's so stupid. I just love whiskey. So like, it's even sitting around it, I'm like, man, I really want to taste that. But we'll be fine. But you brought one we haven't had before, the good old Dickel, George Dickel. We like making.
Love me a good Dickel.
I'm not going to say what I said before, but it's okay. But Dickel's, not one of the most famous brands. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
It's actually in Tullahoma, Tennessee. It's like the little brother to probably what everybody knows as Jack Daniels. That they're very similar in that they both use the Lincoln County process where they filter the whiskey through charcoal. But Dickel's located in Tullahoma. The distillery was founded by George Dickel in 1870 at the Cascade Hollow. So if you look at the bottles right now, they still say Cascade Hollow somewhere on there. All the distillate when it first came out was named that until after George Dickel died. Then they changed the name to George Dickel. Interesting thing, but you still see the Cascade on there, and the distillery is still, I think, officially like the Cascade Hollow Distillery. But after his death, all the rights for the distillery was transferred to one of his business partners, Victor Schwab. And then 1910, Tennessee had enacted prohibition for the state, so they actually moved the distillery operations to the Stitzel Distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. It was producing whiskey there until 1920 when prohibition took effect nationwide. They stopped doing it. The distillery in 1933 was sold to the Shenley Distilling Company. And then in 1958, they built a new distillery, which is 1 kilometer from the original distillery that was built. In 1997, some companies merged together to form Diageo. And by the year 1999, they basically gotten rid of all their American whiskey products except for I.W. Harper and George Dickel. There was one that survived that. And they actually stopped producing at that distillery at that time. And then they started firing up the distillery back in 2003. Dickel is an interesting bottle too to bring in because they spell whiskey differently. Have you ever noticed that?
I did not.
So take a bottle there. There's no E in whiskey on their bottles. So Dickel actually, the Dickel product goes through a normal column still first, and then it actually is distilled a second time in a Scottish pot still. So because of that tie to the Scottish pot stills, they removed the E, so it's whiskey to go with Scottish whiskey. So, and like I said before, the other interesting thing about Dickel is that they do charcoal filter just like Jack Daniels. And they're one of the few distillers that are doing the Lincoln County process is what they call it, and one of the biggest whiskey suppliers for brands. So they do source a lot of whiskey to a lot of different companies that they talk about, and sometimes they keep quiet. So let's go with it. Whiskey, you're gonna go with it, I think. So I'll open it for you. I'll pour it. It's so fancy. All right. I feel like I'm working now. I've done this before.
My man.
Let's just open the one that's open.
Yeah,
that's we're gonna do that.
I don't know if like, so this says it's bottle 100, so that's got to be important too, right?
Probably not, but this is age 9. No, it's bottle. Yeah, I don't know. But
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is a small batch. We'll open. This one's already open. This is a private barrel. What's cool about this one? This one's actually older. So it says 9 years. This is a private barrel.
But you got it 9 years ago.
No. Oh. But it's older, meaning that that's a good way to look. No, actually, they do. When you do a private barrel pick, this is older. I think this one. Don't quote me. I think that's 11 or 12 years old.
Okay.
So we'll give you that one. You can have that later.
Nice.
Pretty good one.
I don't want to.
And then one of the interesting things that I'm not having it, but one of the funny things about Dickel is a lot of people that have it. And the funny thing is, all the guys here, everyone except for one of them is doing dry January too. So usually are you doing dry January? Okay, give it to Dan.
I can't drink alone.
Yeah, he can't drink alone. Everyone else is like, no, I can't do it. But a lot of things, Dickel gets a bad rap. It's kind of interesting.
Does he?
Yeah, it does.
I don't know anything about this.
A lot of people diss on it a lot. They do a lot of source whiskey, so a lot of people don't. If you dig into the hobby, you know about where it's getting sourced, and used by other places. But yeah, it doesn't have the greatest reputation. One of the things that a lot of people
I didn't mean to bring it.
No. It's like, but it's different because I'm talking about the big snobby people, because one of the things is it's funny about this. This bottle says Dickel right on it, but it
could have been from somewhere else.
But if I put Bardstown Bourbon Company right, and on the side of it says 16-year Tennessee whiskey, it's coming from Dickel, but they love it then. So it's kind of the bourbon community is kind of weird about Dickel. And one of the things that the notes it always gets is people say it tastes like they get the Flintstone vitamin taste.
Oh, I can't wait.
So give it a shot. I don't think that one has it. But have you had this before that you brought it?
No.
Oh my God.
It's been sitting at my house for like a year.
He's never gonna.
So now it's a 10-year, by the way.
That's not how it works, but it's still 9 years.
You mean wait? All right. Dave, right? Dan, that's what I said.
It feels so weird. I'm like, where's mine? This is the stupidest thing we're doing.
This is the stupidest
podcast,
stupidest guest.
Yeah, one of them's over there bragging about 75. I'm gonna do it 75. I'm gonna do it 76 just to beat Joe. Why? I don't know, but I feel like I gotta do it. Fuck that. I'm not doing 76 days. But let's get back. Let's get back to that again. I don't have a problem again about it. But it's just weird.
Neither of us have problems. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah. Because someone was trying to throw a problem on you, but maybe when you what I've learned is when you have a problem with other people, it's usually because of the problem yourself. So maybe that person needs to do a little self-reflection. How much she is drinking before she starts like, maybe whoa. I'm like, because I remember you down here drinking a lot more than we've drank right now.
Keeping it fun.
Stop giving her a hard time. We're not going to put her on camera this time, though. This is the first time she refuses to come on camera.
I did tell her she was going to be up here with me. She's like, no,
I will not do that. And she always falls for it. We just need to make her drink more, and then she makes bad decisions. Yeah. Hence why she's trying to stop you.
And that's how we met, which is...
How did you guys meet?
Through through the rescue. No, we met through the pet rescue. I had a dog that was needing some extra love, and she had like a little gift package that she had put together for me, and I went to pick it up. And when I met, she was like, "I love you," and I was like, "Fine."
Not true.
She whispered it really quick.
No, I mean, it was one of those rare moments where you feel something right away, and it wasn't homosexuality for me this time. It was something a little different. So yeah, I mean, we made it work though. And
He ruins a perfectly cute story. He ruins it.
So, it is a cute story, but I don't like all that stuff.
We gotta keep going. So like you're doing rescue stuff, which is one of the things you do now.
Yeah.
So were you talking to her before she brought the?
She tried to get me to talk to her. No, I'm terrible with my phone. I don't know if you figured that out this week. I don't.
I definitely like probably the past like couple months. I'd send you something like, okay, I know how to get an answer. Let's text somebody else.
I'm not the most responsive person when it comes to my cell phone, and I had a foster that she knew was going to be a hard time, and she had been checking on me. And I don't know how many messages went without me responding, but she finally was like, "Hey, can you just let me know he didn't eat you, because I'm kind of freaking out." And then her sense of humor through that text message is where I was like, "That sounds cute," So I started texting a little bit better. And then when we met, now it's 150 messages a day back and forth.
Do you respond now though?
I try. She's the busiest woman I've ever met in my life, and sometimes she needs information from me, and I don't respond as quickly as I should for the amount of effort that she puts into it. So,
wow, you are like that was like scripted. Did you write that down somewhere on your hand? I feel like you got that written down. Like
it's on my heart.
She's like, you are going to make this apology on the air so everybody can hear it. It is going.
I didn't apologize. I didn't apologize. I never said sorry. She knew what she was getting.
Yeah, you always hear like there's always something in the relationship like that one is better at communicating.
Yeah.
Like my wife has the phone all the time, but when I need something, it's like I cannot get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anybody, like the only person, like I literally will call or text like one of my sons to get hold of my wife, and then as soon as you call, you'll hear her voice, and she's like, "I don't have my phone." You're like, Where's I watch? Oh, that's next to your bed. You don't have to watch.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. I can fall asleep all the time.
You're like,
Yeah, I'm just done.
All right, so you literally head over there. You hurt yourself. You head back instead of prepping and getting ready. You decide to wrestle around some more.
Well, I got ready for the combatives tournament, so that was still me getting ready for a fight.
So you delay a little bit. You head to airborne school. Head back to Bragg.
Yep.
To start selections.
I got hurt in airborne school too. I
don't think you rode that one.
No, I didn't. I broke my big toe. So I was there for the Thanksgiving weekend off.
How did you break your big toe?
Well, do you remember toe shoes? You probably still have a pair. You look like a toe shoe runner guy. Do you remember those though? The minimalist shoes that had.
They let you wear those at airborne school?
No, I'm getting to the story, man.
Shit. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I don't fucking. If they're letting you wear those motherfuckers at airborne school now, I'm like, that's a problem.
No, so
I let you jump with them now. No, I'm kidding.
I had my weekend off,
God.
and I went home, and me and my friends used to have the toilet bowl, which is where we would play a football game on Thanksgiving weekend. And I had toe shoes on, and one of the guys that was on the other team had cleats on. And he planted his foot right on top of my big toe as he made his cut, and it broke my toe. So I finished airborne school with a broken toe.
I still feel like there's someone that should have been saying like,
you keep coming from like
the
opposite mindset.
No, I should have been like somebody had been like, what are you gonna do this weekend, Jason?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play football with dudes wearing cleats,
and I'm
gonna wear toe shoes. Somebody
I just got those toe shoes. They were so cool.
No,
they were awesome. It really did feel like you're not wearing shoes, which is not safe.
I have the toe socks.
Yeah, they're for the toe shoes.
Yeah.
They gotta be.
No, they're not. I actually swear by the toe socks. So all the marathons I ever ran.
Sweaty toes?
No, what it does, it doesn't sweat. It stops with all your blistering and stuff like that. Dan, you should look into that. You're still doing that. But they stop from the chafing and all that kind of stuff with your blisters. And
I don't have those kind of problems.
Yeah. So the toe socks, I don't know where they were never originally made for that, but that is a good story. But and then again, I wore those a lot. I haven't seen anybody wear them recently. Maybe no one's wearing those anymore.
I might still have a pair in
the toe socks. I'm talking about. No one's wearing the fucking shoes.
I might bring.
That was the.
I'm gonna bring them back. We're doing it live.
It will be back probably in like 10 years. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh yeah.
But that was
it's good. This is what I heard. It's good for your gait.
Yeah,
and I was like, "What's a gait? It's a fancy way of saying how you run." Oh, that's what I want.
Because it was like the minimalistic move. I get it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was hence the word running or trail running, not playing football.
You're running. So I don't.
Oh my god, unbelievable. Just. I felt literally it's like somebody should have told you fucking no. Like no. I'm gonna clear.
If you guys do call-ins, my parents would be calling him right now.
Yeah,
we told him no.
We told him no 1,000 times. What was he doing? Oh, that's fine. So you break your toe, you hurt your shoulder, and so you lose the combatives. You don't win.
That's
you
the
break
worst.
your toe, you hurt your shoulder, then you had to brag to start off the course.
Mm-hmm.
So were you going into 100% or were you?
No.
Okay.
But I was pretty solid.
Nah. So
no, I was solid. Like honestly, the whole thing up until I had like a weird thing happen, which started off like my trajectory downhill when I was in the course.
We're making a lot of jokes. So you head there. You've had those things happen. Is there anything in your mind that you're like, maybe I shouldn't have done the combatives thing? Maybe I shouldn't have. No, all joking aside, maybe I have a feeling the answer is going to be no. But is there anything in your mind that you're like, especially now, like look back now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regret about doing that?
No, not at all.
I knew you were going to say that.
No, like I had thought like I was going to do special forces, and I knew that you get a language when you go through special operations, and I had this idea of joining the FBI as a civilian when I would get out in 8 years. And then as I kept getting hurt, I was like, okay, when I get out in 10 years. Okay, when I get out in 12 years, because I was like, I gotta have enough time in the career path. Right. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a soldier for life, and this is just what it is. So, but no, I never thought like, my injuries are going to affect me having, a healthy, happy life on the outside.
Yeah, because
I kind of wish I would have.
So, I was going to ask this question later, but I feel like it is because we're going to get into more injuries. But like at this point, you've already haven't made the best decisions for someone who is like prepping. Like I would say for me, it's like as I was getting ready for an Ironman, it wasn't smart to go out and like the one time I did it and decided to go play softball and like roll my ankle. Like at that point, like I mean, there's certain people. There's some mindset that's like I'm invincible, right? Mm-hmm. Or you know. I'm not, right? So I'm gonna protect myself. Yeah. Is there any part of that you look as like those injuries as a gift or curse to your career? Like, no, I mean, looking back now, do you like how do you look at that?
Well, I mean, if I didn't have those injuries, then maybe I wouldn't have made the friend group I had when I got recycled. You know, maybe I wouldn't have. I mean, some of my physical therapists are still really good friends of mine, honestly. So it's just like I wasn't so focused on the end point, like the destination, as much as like this is just the journey. Right. You know, I've always looked at life as like, okay, yeah, I want to do these things, but you know, I can do this other stuff while I'm trying to get to that point too. So,
and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that you should like be transparent and start crying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to bring out like a different personalities, and it's a healthy way to be like because you can't do anything about it. I'm not busting your.
I did have friends. I did have friends, and so I never earned my Green Beret, which you know. If you talk to some of my closest friends, we're called Worley Boys. So when I was going through the course, I lived in a house with 6 other guys. We all got W tattoos on our ribs because the house was on Worley Street, and they called us Worley Boys. But they finished.
Another great decision.
Yeah, I have to say. But they finished the course, and they're like, "Dude, you're like the most Green Beret, non-Green Beret that anybody knows. You're fine." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't bring it up. You did, but thank you." You know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you can look at it and be like, man, you probably should have pumped the brakes a little bit. But when I had it in me to give it all gas, I did, and I had a really good time. Like I did a lot of really cool stuff. Yeah. I met a lot of really cool people. And I could probably talk to Dan about a lot of like, you know, like
physical things you've had done to.
Yeah, we could talk medical stuff.
He's not cheap. You don't want to talk to him. He's very expensive.
He could use medical terms, and I'm going to know exactly what part of the body he's talking about.
You might be able to pry him in his bottom of the dick hole. Okay. Maybe not. No. I know they bring that up, and I'm giving you a hard time a little bit about it, but I'm trying to highlight an important thing. I think it's you can't go back. You can't look in the rearview mirror. Right. You can't overthink all those things because you may not have been injured and something would happen anyways, and it might not happen. So it is a good healthy mindset not to look at the past and have regret over it. It's something that I'm not great at all the time, but. I think it's important what you said is that when you had the time to do that, you're living your life and going full blown, which is important. I think that's a good message to anybody. Is like when you have the opportunity to do something, is throw your heart into it, throw everything you have into it because you may not get a shot at it. Yeah. You seem to get tons of shots at different stuff. You got kind of lucky.
Maybe it was. I mean, sure, yeah, luck. I'm sure there's a certain amount of luck that was involved in all that.
Well, I mean, there's some opportunities. Like you hear like a lot. Like I mean, we'll get into it. So you go to the qualification course. What was you said you had a major injury that kind of railroaded everything.
Yeah, so my appendix burst, which was the freak accident. So like I thought I just had eaten like bad gas station sushi or something. My stomach was really messed up. We're doing a ruck march. I'm cramping all day long. And then that night, I realized I have like rebound pain. So like I push on my stomach, it doesn't hurt. When I let up, I'm like doubling over. So I go to the emergency room. My appendix had ruptured. They clean me out and they find 3 hernias and they fix those all up. And then I have some downtime. Right?
Yeah, Dan is back there like.
I'm not looking that way.
Don't look that way. You're stressing Dan out.
No. Yeah. So that was a real big reset because like my entire core was compromised at that point. Inguinal, umbilical, and abdominal hernias with the, appendicitis. So then they put me in charge of the barracks for special operations soldiers, which is a very complicated job because these guys, when they're not at work, they're playing very hard and there's a lot of work to be done. And then when, I kind of restarted the course and then when I was in SEER school, I injured my shoulder. And that was when I had like, okay, you've already been here for 3 years. You'll come back for school. You'll come back for your MOS training and then you'll do Robin Sage and you'll be good to go. But you're going to go away for a year. And that was when they moved me to Fort Riley. And at Fort Riley, I happened to be in a brigade that was.
So before we go there,
Okay.
that's the first time I saw you take it like a huff, like a little, a huff, like a.
It was
not make it
frustrating.
Yeah.
It was
Like
frustrating.
talk about that. So I feel like that's just listening, you're watching you.
Yeah.
Listen to you. That I feel like that's the first time in your career you're frustrated.
Yeah, because this was like, yeah, you're still gonna have another shot, but it's time bound, and time is our most valuable currency. I don't like wasting any time. I wanted to just get after it. But yeah, sending me to Fort Riley was kind of big. I was there for almost exactly a year. I love Fort Riley. I met more great people. But it felt like that 18-year-old kid again, 19-year-old kid again that quit, even though I wasn't really quitting, but it felt like it, So just having that weight of unfinished business, knowing that there's a lot of paperwork still involved to even start the business again, that's frustrating.
So what were anything you were doing that wasn't healthy at that time to deal with that? Imposter syndrome or not feeling like you were.
No, honestly, going to Fort Riley probably was the best thing that could have happened to me. I think if they would have sent me to the 82nd, like if I would have just stayed there at Bragg and then seen those guys every day, walking to the PX, after school and stuff, that would have been a little more frustrating. I got a certain level of respect that maybe I didn't feel like I deserved, but I did use it to my advantage to, when I had experiences that other people didn't have, they would listen. They were a little more eager to listen. So I don't know. In Fort Riley, I got really healthy again until I wasn't, until my knee. But I took that time and the event, the process very serious. Again, just like how I was preparing myself for selection, because I was very strict coming out of the boards, post deployment, understanding like I'm going to try something that I know nothing about. So that was like a real big, headspace reset for me going to Fort Riley. But I was extremely frustrated and determined, probably a little overly headstrong. But
so was there any part of you at that time that like were like maybe I'm not going to be able to make it back to the Special Forces community?
No, I had made a friend there who joined the Army at 42 years old, and he went to Ranger School at 43 years old, and he was 44 years old in the SF's course, in the qualification course, meaning he already passed selection, and he was there with his 21-year-old son. And I was like, okay, I understand that I have to push pause for a little bit on actually going after this goal in this way, but I can do all these other things. Again, I can do these things in the meantime and go after it. But I wasn't worried about like becoming too old. I wasn't concerned about my injuries at that time. That happened just before I ended up switching branches. But yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your questions, man.
No, you are.
Okay.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Thanks, man.
So obviously the next question, did you go back to the Q course?
I did not.
Okay.
So on Fort Riley, I'm in the PX they have there on base. I lived on base when I was there. I ran into a friend from basic training. This guy was a very unique individual because of where he was born, what his ethnicity was. He was a very highly qualified, highly educated person. And he talked me into joining PSYOP for a role that would have been in like a higher tier unit. And listening to his perspective on the guys who were Green Berets that jumped over and did that type of work, he was like, hey, man, we have all these guys. And honestly, like, we don't need more of them. But we're looking for guys like this if, you want to go that route. So I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. It took a lot of because I'd already had my letters of recommendation from people. Like I was literally waiting one more month before I submitted everything, and then I would have gotten orders back to Bragg for the SFQC. And I still love that guy, man. He's such a good guy, and he's done so much. He's out of the Army now. He's just done like remarkable things. I respected him before we had that conversation. Respect him even more now. But yeah, when you have a good person that has nothing to gain from the advice that they give you, and they're not just what you should do, when they're coming at you because they care about you. And that might have been one of the first times in my life where I listened to somebody. but I did listen to them, and I was really happy about that. And
Because I'm kind of shocked because it feels like I haven't been listening to anybody up to this point.
I'd listen well. Is that what you said? Was that a question?
Yeah, that was the question. No, I mean, but I'm glad. So you this guy decided to turn you on the site, the PSYOP side. So just for people not listening, we've had some civil affairs folks. We've had a civil affairs, a couple actually, and so I guess like they're kind of the closest together. Civil affairs, PSYOPs, kind of
It just depends on the mission set.
Yeah,
they're so spread out. Yeah,
kind of together a little bit, but. And similar that they have a selection course just like Special Forces and Civil Affairs Special.
Yep, that's the three under the umbrella,
right? And then you also have the psychological operations qualification course. So head back to Bragg again this time.
Yeah, I do a
POQC.
POQC.
Yeah, POQC. Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to get that.
Yeah. So they have a selection, which was actually super cool. If anybody out there wants to go to PSYOP selection, the selection is awesome, right? The Q course could use work, as all can, but the selection is really cool, very abstract, things you would not think you would be approached with. But they throw a whole bunch of stuff at you because they want to figure out like.
So 10 days, right? Isn't it a couple weeks or 10 days?
I forget. I feel like it was longer. You might be right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it was 19 days for SFAS, but that has nothing to do with PSYOP. So, so quick little selection. I had orders. I left like 6 weeks later for Fort Bragg again, coming home. And then it was like right at a year for their Q course. So I think the SFQC, if you go straight through, is right around 2 years. The PSYOP QC is like half that. And then did another little like operators thing, and that was like another 6 months, and then I was mission ready.
So back to the 2 qualification courses. You did a little bit time at. Did you do some time in the Q course before you got hurt? You were in the middle of it, right? SFQ course or no?
Oh yeah. So I was about 8 months in the first time I got hurt, and then probably another year and a half afterwards. So I was right at the end of it the second time I got hurt.
So harder SFQS or POQ?
The SFQC is way harder. Way harder. It's just you're
physically or mentally?
Both.
Or both. Okay.
Both. Because just the duration of it wears on you mentally. And the standards are higher. So when you're going through SFQC, you're assigned 2 cadre, 2 instructors that will be with you the entire time. And they're who you are required to like report every day. You do your workouts with them, and the crew I had was phenomenal, but they beat us to the ground. Absolutely beat us to the ground. The most intense mornings I've ever had. And everything, you just had to memorize everything. You know, you're not taking notes on shit. It's getting locked up in your head. And like, they just didn't fuck around, man. Like, honestly, we had one guy get a DUI in one of the other sticks, one of the other platoons. And our cadre were like, that's never going to happen to us. Every Friday morning, you're going to meet us at 3 a.m. We're going to do a 12-mile ruck every Friday. And that's just how it is, and we're like, okay, this is new, so they just did everything right, man. And they took the job so serious, and that, bled down into us, and we took the job very serious. And aside from injuries, I don't think we had anybody like call it quits in our chalk. Like nobody like was like, this is too much.
Right.
So
let's talk about POQC.
Okay.
I know
we'll see how much I remember.
A little shorter about that. Yeah, hopefully remember that a little bit more. No, I'm kidding. But a little bit different. I mean, a lot more mentally, would you say, or what's the challenge of that course?
So mentally, yeah,
it's not an easy course to get through either.
No, not at all. Yeah. No, not at all. But it is a lot of book work. Like you have to be a lot smarter with policies. Both foreign and domestic policies. You're working on very specific mission sets to solve specific problems that have a lot of rules. When you go into a gunfight, you win by, getting whatever needs to be off the objective, eliminating what's on the objective, and then you guys getting back home from the objective, right? And the psychological battles are a lot different, and they're a lot longer, and they're a lot more complicated. So when they're trying to prepare you just by building your foundation, there's just so much book work that needs to be done. So
Yeah, it's definitely thinking man and thinking woman's game for sure.
Yeah.
With what you see, like I mean, my first time seeing those folks with civil affairs and both PSYOPs were when we deployed to Afghanistan, and it was interesting to watch them.
Yeah.
Do their.
Just depending on what it is.
Their part of the war was like.
It was just
Oh.
And there's so many flavors of PSYOP, which
Yeah.
is crazy. You know, sometimes it's a leaflet, sometimes it's you know a head of state somewhere, sometimes it's a sniper on a roof. You know,
Yeah, for us it was interesting with the guys we had. We had the civil affairs that were like super focused on like the.
Yeah, the
they were like I would like how I had because we were all together a lot when we went, and you'd have. I used to say like the bad ways of civil affairs folks with us were like the mom, right? They were like nice, being nice to everybody, and like wanted to be nice, but then the PSYOPs people were like, it was like dad, like it was like we're gonna give you something, but we're getting like nothing was for free. That interactions that we were having, it was like everything was like it wasn't they were playing, they were doing their mission, and it was very interesting to sit back and watch and be like, shit, I wish I could do that, but it wasn't something that we were doing, but it was interesting to watch. I used to we used to tell the civil affairs captain, we used to call mom a little bit about that because what is dad doing and like doing their. It was interesting to watch, and it's like I guess for you, it's interesting to see that come into effect and be used because it was used for many years. It's changed over the past 20 years.
PSYOP?
I might say
So
the past couple wars. So
I mean, it's literally it touches everything, which I did not understand until I finally went on mission, and I went into it, and I still like when I think of what what's a civil affairs guy look like? Well, he looks like mom. Okay, what's a PSYOP guy look like? He's the guy who's going to push up his glasses while he watches YouTube, but don't touch his YouTube because he'll choke you out because he knows jujitsu. So, and then the SF guys like see rock, smash rock. Don't get in front of my rock. Right. So I look at these guys in different aspects, but they're all so capable. I personally think everybody should be tied into an ODA. That's just something from
PSYOPs wise, you mean, or
PSYOP, CA, or everybody should be under an SF like ODA. Like they should all be 18 somethings, in my opinion. Because how they embed you into those teams, and most. So like I worked with ODAs. I worked with different SEAL teams, task forces, MARSOC guys. So if you don't come in, I was lucky enough. I was a recon guy. I went through the SFQC almost to completion. When we would go on mission with some of these other units and they want to talk tactics, and I can provide good like feedback that gets you embedded in that team because you need them for access, because PSYOP does not have medics. PSYOP does not have all these other assets that these other units have to. We have to, like, PSYOP guys have to have another unit that they're embedded in, or else they don't do anything. So when you take away that skill set, because when you go through the POQC, like you don't get that much shooter time at all. You get like tactical movements, but you don't get the nuts and bolts of how you're going to get off the objective safely with your guys. And I've talked to a lot of guys in the past that are in different echelons of leadership and involved in those decision making, and they're like, everything being under an 18 series would be the best. And then they're already on the team. They go through the same thing together, and then they would just get kicked off and augmented onto these other units. But yeah.
Interesting, like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you're using PSYOPs on me now.
No.
The whole interview, you're like, by the way, I was mad at myself the whole entire time I was pulling PSYOPs on you. Now, so you spent a lot of time. Are you allowed to talk about where you went?
Yeah, I mean, I was in East Africa. I had a really cool mission set out there. Spent time in Djibouti, Somalia.
So 2 PSYOPs per battalions, all right? 9th and then
no,
is there more than?
There's like 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th.
I didn't know that.
No, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 9th.
How many are Bragg though?
All of them.
Are they all Bragg?
Yep.
Even any reserve PSYOPs?
No, not at Bragg. They have reserve.
No, any reserve? Is there any reserve PSYOPs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many reserves are there?
I don't know. I know there's one here in Ohio. It's because they got 19th group here, and they have like a platoon or something. But
okay.
Those guys are weird though.
They're weird.
Yeah. Those are the guys that push up their glasses watching YouTube, choking you out.
Sorry for the cough, the lingering cough, but everyone's weird though in a way, right? Isn't everybody a little weird?
You're weird.
I mean, except for you.
No,
You're the most normal person I know.
Obviously.
But besides myself, I mean, I'm not weird at all either. So you spent a lot of time. How much time in Africa did you spend?
So I was on the mission for like 5 years, and I spent a lot of that over there.
So talk about that. What was some of the highlights of what you can talk about? What did you enjoy about that
Just the
mission?
people and the places, man. Honestly, you're relying on people that don't even speak your language, but you understand like what what you want freedom to look like, what you want peace to look like, and you got people that are volunteering. Just like I did when I was 18. They're doing the same thing, only their flags, blue and white instead of red, white, and blue. So just a lot of respect for them. Very different, understanding the cultures and like the tribal conflicts that go on out there and the history of it and how little your opinion matters when you're not there. It was very complicated, but it was beautiful at the same time. So
What was your favorite place in Africa?
Diani Beach, Kenya. So one of the times I was there, I went to Nairobi, which is in Kenya. I caught a bus from Nairobi to Mombasa, and then had a driver take me from Mombasa to Diani Beach so that I could spend Thanksgiving on the ocean with some buddies of mine. So it's pretty cool.
Pretty good life there, just living.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the option to, hop around on a small jet with some friends, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that happened every week or so, but
yeah,
not when you're in dry January. Kind of limit your. So 5 years in that mission, PSYOPs guy.
Yeah.
What was your frustration? You talked about one of them was not being embedded with.
Oh, that didn't.
Thing. What's any struggles with that mission that you happy about your decision? You ever look back and be like, wish I went SF or?
Sometimes, I mean, I see your cool hat sitting over there. Like not owning or not earning a Green Beret is sour. That's pretty sour.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have been able to do that mission, and that mission meant a lot to me, honestly. And I still can I had, my birthday was yesterday. I had somebody reach out from that, like a foreign person that like helped me out a lot. Reached out to me yesterday and said, "Hey, happy birthday! Make sure we chum it up sometime in the next week." That's awesome. I love that. And like I have all my SF buddies. I still have all those guys. They didn't like just leave me behind because I didn't hit that finish line. I ended up getting hurt again, which is why I decided
no
at the end. No, at the end.
No way. You got hurt again? No.
Yeah. No, I got banged up. I had to have, more work done. And, it was from my understanding at that point in that job, like I wasn't going to be able to go out on mission anymore. And they're like, you can, they're like, we know you could medically retire. Like you've had a lot of work done.
You're top of the list here.
Yeah, right, or you can take the desk job. And at that time, my daughter was 11, and I was like, you know what, I'll take the early, and again, I'll go raise my daughter full time. So yeah, it was a quick decision, but not an easy decision. And it's still something that I rattle around in my brain. I don't think about like what ifs. It's more like the things about, the civilian world that we live in versus the other world that frustrate me. And I'm like, I'm 37 years old. I never had to like deal with this before.
Right.
So that kind of stuff frustrates me.
But that person in the rescue that keeps texting you, won't leave you alone, talking to you.
Yeah.
I know the deal. No, but before we, get into the transition out in that part, I did have a question. So the PSYOPs motto is persuade, change, or influence, right? Mm-hmm. There's no word, just persuade, change, influence. So my question is, persuade, change, or influence. What is harder to do to someone when you're dealing with people in your mind? You're one of those people that have been trained the methods to do those, to help. You
want the real answer?
Yeah. What's the hardest when you're dealing with in Africa? Your military thing, and also now that you're out as a civilian, is it harder to persuade someone, change someone, or influence someone?
Change. It's harder to change, especially when that change is tied to some type of belief, especially a religious belief. or something that someone's radicalized against, right? So we look at all the things that are weaponized, all the information is weaponized against us. In my opinion, think we have information weaponized against us, and it's trying to separate us for whatever reason, whether it's for like both sides to get money or for something to get passed in a law or whatever it is, right? There's no way to really tell on the surface what it is, but we're being pushed in directions to make us actually believe things are true. And for there to be a, let's say that there's one right way and it happens to be right down the middle from the two sides that are going against each other, it's going to be so much harder to change beliefs than it would be to like influence them to make like a quick decision, or to persuade them to like click on this, advertisement. A change is something that you want to be lasting, and that is so much more difficult than, persuading and influencing somebody.
Yeah, change. It's hard to change anything. It's big picture changing. When you're the big picture of the psych. What you guys were doing, and every day, like no one wants to change. We're kind of set in our own ways.
Yeah.
So I looked at that. I don't want to change anything. Like I don't want to not drink for a month. I don't want to. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I don't want to start running again, all these kinds of things. But changing is difficult in any aspect. So even bigger picture when you're trying to change, a group of people from a foreign country that don't speak our language, that have nothing similar to us, to change them to.
Yeah. Well, they do though. There's a lot of similarities. Yeah. They do value life. So Somalia. Something I found really interesting is they used to have their conflict settled through poetry. No joke.
Never heard this.
Yeah, pre-colonization, they would write like poems to express how important something was to them, and whoever expressed it the best would be the one who won that dispute. So, like they were about family, they're about God, they're about self-growth, and when I figured that out, and it blew me away, like that just helped me like understand them so much more and relate to them. Because really, when you break down any real individual that's true to themselves and that has reflection and that has empathy and values, like that's what we want. We, whether it's, doesn't matter what your religion is, if there's some type of a higher purpose for you and you pursue that, some type of self-growth, some type of responsibility that you take for your actions when it comes to how you care for the things that you say are important to you. Like that was so relatable to me when, I was able to communicate with them in a way that helped me understand that.
Did you learn that from training, or like just being over that area?
Just spending time there. Yeah. Making friends.
I would have never won anything because I'm awful at poetry. I remember being like in fifth grade, we had to write like haiku or something like that. It was like, what is this?
Dude, I blew him away though. I did blow him away.
So you're a poet?
Dude, I was like, palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. I'm like, this guy's a fuego.
Meanwhile, some dude's like, did I not know where this is from? Yeah, you're just. Yeah, there's some great raps you could throw in there.
Yeah, just blow them away. They're like, this guy's good. This guy's good.
Hey, that's part of it. If it works, it works, man. Oh my God, I didn't see that.
You're welcome.
That good one going. So you make that decision to get out, medically retire.
Yeah.
2020, so not too long ago.
Right.
Some important things would happen at that time.
Oh yeah.
The world was changing a little bit. The world was sort of cray at the time.
Yeah.
So you get out, you come back here. What brought you back to Central Ohio?
So my daughter lived here with her mom, and it's not like I'm gonna move her mom's whole family. So I was like, okay, I'm coming home. So that was it. No choice about it. I was tired of being like the weekend dad when I had weekends off. I tried to be up here every other weekend, and most of the time I could do like 1 weekend a month. If I was on training mission or, deployed, then obviously that time gets stretched out. And I just I didn't want to do that. My daughter didn't have a choice in who her parent was, so I just wanted to fulfill my responsibility of, being a dad. And been a lot of unique situations my daughter's put me in the last couple of years, and I love her for it. She's a really good kid, and I don't regret, coming back at all. She's everything.
So let's dive more into this. So you obviously now you're sharing that you were obviously married before.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not with your daughter, not living in the same state
At the time. Yeah.
So how are you dealing with that?
Terribly, terribly.
Talk about that.
Like I felt like if I was coming home every night that, she should have been there. So it was easier when I was deployed or if I was on training mission. Like, like it just sucked. And I wouldn't like, I don't know. I just was like disgruntled every morning, like waking up, shaving my face, where's your kid? What's she eating for breakfast this morning? You don't know, it just bugged me a lot.
So you had the injuries, you could have, like you said before, taken a dust job, wrote it out another. How many total years do you have? 15 or how many? What's the total?
I had over 13.
Yeah. Okay.
Over 13.
So was that factor of coming back and reuniting with her, was that part of your decision-making process or?
That was the decision.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. That was it. When the times when I re-enlisted and I stayed in, I understood that there were so many benefits that I provided her by being a service member, and that my skills in the civilian world did not translate from what I was doing in the military. I knew what it was like because of that time off between my two enlistments. That one, I'm not good at manufacturing. I don't like I don't like it. I didn't like it at the time.
Right.
I wanted to be, I don't know. And now what's funny is like I'm back in it, but like I'm in a leadership role where I get to make decisions, which is nice. But at the time it's like, okay, I'm an assembly line guy that, does the same job over and over for 8 hours. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong for anybody that does that. With my immaturity level at that age, having a child, I knew that I would not be successful in that. And I would be the guy that was going to bounce around from job to job to job. Because as much as I loved my daughter, I knew I still wasn't going to be able to force myself to be the guy that's going to push the button every day. So I waited until, I got my degree, 13 years online. It's not bad to get a 4-year degree,
I mean, I feel like you could have done it a little bit faster if you weren't,
probably
combative stuff, rehabbing from 27 different surgeries.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but you accomplished it. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And I needed that. I felt like I needed that. Now, like looking at everything, like really, like my experience made up for that. But having somebody take the time to give you that look because that little check mark is on, your resume,
right.
It helps. It helps get you that. If I can get an interview, I feel like, as long as I don't talk too much trash, I can probably get the job,
Right.
But I didn't have the skills at the time. And that last time, looking at everything, I was like, okay, and honestly, I had a job lined up, but with COVID locking everything down, that got canceled. But I was like, okay, I have the skills. Now I also had a retirement. I knew that, no matter what, like I would be at least able to pay my bills, when I got out. But yeah, every time before that though, I had no confidence that I was going to have that. So
She was the number one reason you'd say if you look back at it.
100%. Yeah. Almost the entire decision. Almost.
So I think that's the first time you were like a man, like, I know you talked about.
First time he was a man?
No, like not thinking, no. You said before you were making decisions like being away from, you being a service member, you're getting the benefits, all that kind of stuff. But where you, with a man brain is what it was more saying is like you're looking at like now a little bit different than just what you can accomplish. It's what now you can bring to the relationship. It was a more mature decision.
Absolutely. Because even so, like I went through, the divorce like right after selection. And the only thing I had that was still like, hey, we want you was like SF, like my kid was like gone. I didn't have a place to even live at the time. Like I had nothing. And SF's like, dude, we'll give you a solid bonus and come on out here and learn some skills. Like, all right, yeah. I don't have anything else right now. So maybe the things that I was doing along the route of that were definitely not the most mature decisions, but I still was thinking about what can I provide? Like I have to take care of something now. What do I have that I can do to take care of that? So yeah, but I agree. I have thought about my daughter constantly, like deployed. Every time I would go anywhere, And I don't know where I came up with the rule, but if I saw a flower anywhere in the world, I just would like say Aubrey out loud every time. So I knew I missed her. She like changed me immediately as soon as she was born. And as soon as I got that was the first real opportunity that I had the skills and ability to be a providing father to her and come back home and make sure I was there for her whenever she needed me. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do it. Let's go.
So what was that transition like for her and you to come back and be, you're not the monthly dad,
So honestly, the first year we had like a honeymoon phase. It was great. Hey, do this. Got it done, Dad. Like everything. Like I never have to get on her about anything. But it's a real world, and she's like I said, she's challenged me, and I've had to grow past what I thought my depths were to be able to appropriately respond to a father of a 14-year-old daughter. She's a wonderful kid. We get along great. We're super tight. We had one of the best hugs we've ever had in our lives today. And I'm just looking forward to the next one too. And I'm always going to be there for her, whether she needs me there or not. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you talked about this before, we're at the, we're up to 2020. You're coming back. Your life has changed. You left the military. You're now full, you're a civilian. You're
trying to
be. So you talked about your job. You had a job lined up. It didn't work out. So you come, you come here, like your life has changed. What was going on in your mindset there? That's you did pretty good. I mean, we're an hour and 35.
It's a nose scratch, man.
Yeah, like got you. Damn, it gets you every time. But we definitely have guys that have hit that way more. So, what was your mindset here that first year getting out of the military?
So
getting thrown, back into Ohio, you have a job that you think you're going to get. What's going on?
So, I mean, okay. So the job I thought I was going to get, I wasn't like super invested. But like I was curious about it. It was with the Department of Energy. And when COVID happened, is the same week I got out of the Army. I had decided to move. I used the money from selling my house and put it into Robinhood. And I was a day trader making bank. And things were going so good when the COVID lockdowns happened, where I was like, okay, this is easy. I should have done this a long time ago. So really like that first, at least like 6 months, I had like no real concerns about, the direction I was headed. Then, when I wasn't able to do the stock market stuff anymore, when the markets changed and everything, I was like watching my money dwindle away, and I was like, okay, well, I got to try and make some more money. So I tried doing like contracting stuff. I had a little home inspection thing I was doing. And then, I stopped doing that. And now I found myself in a spot where I'm really happy. But I still juggle the balance of time. Like I talked about earlier, I know that's my greatest currency I have is my time. We're getting this moment once. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to get more sleep. What's my time worth? So I'm again in a spot where I'm considering like doing something else so that, I can just spend more time with the people I care about, and make the most out of life. But it's difficult, transitioning from military to civilian life when you haven't made up your mind. And, they have programs set up. I did the Boost to Business program, where they talk to you about entrepreneurship. They have other programs out there, and me doing things Jason's way, didn't take it that serious. I did myself a disservice. I didn't have a Loctite plan. And I think if you have a Loctite plan and you have people that are on board with you and people that will hold you accountable, I think like a support system coming out with real people, not like you have some advisor somewhere that's like, oh, this is what you should do, but if you take the time, if I would have taken the time and gotten my parents involved with it and gotten my friends involved with it, had people hold me accountable for what I said my goals were, it would have been a lot easier because it has been difficult. And I would, if you would have asked me, a couple months ago before I had the back surgery, if I felt like I had my feet under me, I would have said, yeah, for the first time, honestly. Now, recovering from this again, I feel a little bit aloof, but I'll get it back. I know it's just, another blip, but it's tough, man. And I just have so much respect for those people that go out there and grind for 40 years in, you know, the civilian workforce. And, you know, one of the biggest differences is when you take that uniform off and you come out here, nobody comes up to me and thanks me for working in a, you know, a plant that makes plastic bottles. You know, they thank me for the stuff I did when I was in uniform. You know, and we got people that have been in that factory for 25, 30 years and they've done it, and it has to be selfless or else you're not going to be successful and be able to stay in a place that long. So it's just very different. So I used to kind of not like stick my nose up at people that were like working in plants. I think I just didn't understand that, you know, their priorities that they had outside of that plant were what was keeping them in there. And now I can see that. And I just have a ton of respect for really everybody that is doing something to give back to their community, whether it's just their kids under their house or, you know, helping support T-ball clubs or whatever it is, man. Just we're all the same. We're all just trying to get to the same, you know, point.
So you're 3 years out, with going on 4 years of being out of the military, or three? Is it be 3 or 4?
3. I'm on 3.
4. Yeah. Okay.
So this will be 4. Yeah.
4. Yeah. So I've been asked this question. So you shared a little bit, but hardest part of leaving the military: losing your identity, your jobs, or your friends. It sounds like you've stuck with your friends. What's been those 3 the hardest part for you?
I mean, honestly, I would say it's the friend group, man. It's got to be the friend group because that's where you find your identity. You know, when you have that common ground that you can share with people. You know, just last night I was talking to a guy, and we have very different experiences, but he's you know, he's in the military and he lights up when we get around each other, and I get excited too because we can talk about a bunch of stuff. You know, he's a little younger than me, so sometimes he can go off a little more, but you know, we can't talk that way to other people who haven't had that shared experience. So they're like just that bond and that understanding that you're sitting next to somebody who was willing to give everything for everybody else is different than what you do experience on the outside. Doesn't make them like more valuable or less valuable, but when you're talking about what I miss the most, it's absolutely my friends.
Yeah, I think there's a normalcy. Like, I think you. It's not that you can't. You know, I've been out a lot longer, so it does get easier. All those 3 things do get easier. You do find that you're going to get another job. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have a different identity. You know, like what your identity you thought was what you were, Army officer. You know, you can become father. You can become, you know, mm-hmm. whatever. Dry January person, but your identity is what you make of it, right? You can change that. But the friend thing is a very common thing for us. Yeah. But the other thing is you can't make different friends. There's just different mm-hmm. friends. You know, my friends, I have military friends. I have friends that were never in the military. I have friends that are my age. I have friends that are not. It's just that common experience is one of the things I think we do struggle with as veterans. We think we can only talk to, you know, I've gotten better. I'll just give you a little bit of advice that it does get easier. You can talk to people that don't have all the common things. You know, there's some things you absolutely should only tell them about. I mean, we can talk about stuff that we probably wouldn't want to say to our loved ones or things like that. I understand that, but you know, those friends that you can have those same friends. But for us, it's hard because we've been through some pretty significant things in our lives. We've been through. You know, we've had friends that have taken care of our kids, right? Like, mm-hmm. there's all these things that it is hard to trust other people. Yeah. It gets easier, but it still sucks. I still miss people that I haven't seen in 20 years. You know, when you see them the same way,
it's like you pick up right where you left off.
Yesterday, and you did share that something pretty significant. You know, I mean, I get it. I struggle with the same thing. Like, you know, what we've dealt with in the military, right? Where like a bad day. Like I just talked to my boss today. He's awesome. He said, you know, I'm in paint, right? He said, at the end of the day, we're paint, we provide paint for cars. Like we don't even provide anything like safety wise on the car. It's not like we do seat, you know, brakes or anything. But that's a relative way to look at it. But you know, my bad day at work today has nothing to do with, you know, my worst bad day,
right?
And other jobs. But to that other person, it's, you know, I can still have that bomb. Them like a really bad day, a really bad paint day. I can talk to those guys and we can reminisce about it. Your life changes. So I mean, but it is hard for us to do that. And you're still kind of early in that coming out of it. You know, I mean, it takes time to find those people and
and
I thought you were going to say identity. I had you as identity guy, but
no, like without being like a complete sociopath. Like I can find myself fitting in groups pretty easily.
No, what I meant is like I felt like you
I can identify as whatever my priority is at that moment. So.
I don't mean you're a psychopath. I mean, maybe
I said
you are.
sociopath.
No, I don't. I'm kidding you. But what I meant is like you put so much into like to trying to achieve something and put a lot of physical damage to yourself, a lot of things that you've done, like spending time away from your child, relationships that didn't work, and leaving that early, not seeing it through like you talked about before. That's what my mind thought was like. Maybe you just miss being a soldier, and I think we all did. We all miss being in the military. I think that that question's funny because all three of them really applied to me. If you really think about it, all three of them scare the shit out of you, or they look at, but there's that one thing that what really you best was. To me, it wasn't really the friend. To me, it was honestly the identity. Like this is all I thought I was going to do, and I'm not doing that anymore. And like those things you talked about of like I can't see myself going to a factory. I go there every day, and I love it. I'll be honest, I love I love doing it. It's I'm in a different stage of my life, so I didn't mean that in a bad way.
No, you're good. Like for me, like my identity. I mean, like I take my name seriously, but I didn't do what I was doing in the Army necessarily for the Army. You know what I mean? Like I did it for me. Like there was something that was definitely giving back to me, and then I think the next level was I was doing it for the people around me that said that they were going to do it too. And then like when I was able to like really get out there and reach out and touch somebody, I was doing it for like wherever I was, I was like, I really believe like that was going to do better for them, but it was still, like my name's on, like I said, my name is on my chest, my name's on my plate, whatever. I don't know. I didn't like really identify as a soldier. I was, Jason that was in the Army.
I thought you would say the Bionic Man or something. With all
no,
the stuff
I did have. I had this kid.
Dan's like, can I get your social and your date of birth? He wants to get on there and check some stuff out. No,
I had this kid who he saw. He was like, your birthday's in January. I was like, yeah. He was like, I didn't think you had a birthday. I thought you were just assembled. I'm like, that's cute, real cute.
So, are you ready for another drink?
Yeah, this is.
Are you allowed to have another drink?
This is a lot, man.
Are you allowed to have another drink?
I need one.
Did you get permission?
My palms are sweaty.
That's a sign of a problem. So are mine. So, no, I'm joking. Well, Jason and a couple people are gonna enjoy our second featured whiskey. We went back to we had this on earlier. We went back to Angels Envy tonight. I don't know why I was feeling that way
because
I'm not a huge Angels Envy fan. So
this is what you had when I was here last time. Do you know that?
Was it really?
You timed it out perfectly. My man, you did it.
Maybe I didn't know that. But another part about, to be honest, is I'm not a huge Angels Envy fan, so I'm not too upset about not drinking. If you had brought something different to Nickel, I was like, shit, I'm not a Nickel fan, so I'm gonna be okay because I don't have a problem. But we took Angels before, super popular brand, and a little bit different than what we had before. Like Angels Envy, everybody loves Angels Envy; they go crazy for it. Was founded in 2010 by Wes Henderson and industry icon Lincoln Henderson, who spent a lot of time at Woodford Reserve, and then also with Gentleman Jack. Before his passing in 2013, Lincoln worked at selecting blending whiskeys for Angels Envy. Angels Envy whiskeys first appeared in 2011, and its core offerings are the bourbon that they have. Probably the most important or most popular is the rye that people talk about that's aged in the Caribbean rum cask, and then a lot of their different special releases. And I think the last time you were here was what we had was a special release.
Yeah.
We don't have one of those tonight because I'm not drinking. But Angels Envy opened its distillery downtown Louisville. Beautiful place, a great distillery, great people. In 2016, it's just right down the road from the Louisville Bat Stadium, and it's now actually a subsidiary of Bacardi Limited. The Angels Envy Barrel Program, we're gonna have a sample of that started in 2021, so fairly new. It starts like all the other Angel Envy products. It's usually about at least 6 years, maybe a little older, but then after that it's taken and they're aged another additional 3 to 6 months in port casks. This one is actually aged 3 months and a little bit different than the normal Angels Envy. Right next to it is the regular Angels Envy are normal lower proof, 86 proof. All the barrel or the single barrel programs ranges from 100 to 110. This one is 109, I think. So we'll give you that one. This is a really good one. And Joe's not going to be able to bet. He's dry. He actually picked this one too, so he's not missing out on anything. So it's a lot of planning going on for this one.
I like it.
You sure don't want some, Josh? Come on.
Sorry you didn't like my dickel I brought.
There you go. Are
you pouring it?
I'll pour it for you. What
Okay.
the-
What do you want? You gonna hold it?
You got a new glass? Look at you. I like it. Pass that on. Everyone's got to try that, except for Mr. 75 over there.
Grazie.
So we're running on a couple hours, but there's one thing that there's one topic that I think I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
A little bit more. A couple of topics, but the one that I did want to talk about in particular is you said that you enjoy talking with people in difficult times and discussing depression and suicide amongst men. So I'm going to ask that a question that I've started asking is, like many veterans, I've struggled with PTS. Have you struggled with PTS throughout your time in the military?
I think most
now out and out.
I think we talked a little bit about it earlier. I have done a fairly good job at keeping, my ghosts in their closet, for lack of a better term. I understood what I was doing when I did it. The surprises that happened that that nobody plans for. I understood what they were for what they were. I definitely have issues with stress and anxiety and stuff like that. But there was a time in my life where, I was very serious about, taking my own life. And I figured out what was happening with me. And I did like a self-inventory and thought about what I can control going through that situation and what my actions would cause on the backside of that. And, I took charge of my own life. And I used that experience to talk to other people. When I was in the service, I was a suicide prevention advocate. And, I was forced into situations to talk with people who probably didn't want to talk to me at the time. And, I had to experience a lot of loss going through that. But when I got out of the Army is when my phone started ringing more. It felt like, my conversations, my advice, my interactions with these men were more genuine, I think, is what they were thinking on their side. But we had real conversations. And I'm just so proud of the guys that were willing to reach out and talk. And the people that aren't here, I wish they would have just reached out to somebody. So it's something I'm super passionate about. If I ever see a phone number pop up on my phone, everybody I know, for the most part, almost everybody I know has, especially from the past, their number saved in my phone. They call me. If I ever see their name pop up, I'm going to answer and I'm going to talk to them. And, I'll stay there as long as it takes, and I'll give them the best advice I have. And I'll have encouraging people to just take, responsibility and take ownership of what's happened and on what they can control and try and find a way for them to get rid of some of that weight. But, and that's another thing about, meeting Katie, just our experiences and our passions and the things that we hold important to us just line up so much. So now, she's the co-founder of Spike the Stigma, Men the Mind.
Never heard of this.
Never heard of it. Yeah. So you guys, anybody who's a repeat offender on here knows about them. So yeah, I mean, just now, conversations with strangers happen more often.
Right.
And it's just, it's such a cool thing to see people being vulnerable and understanding that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, you want me to throw my number out here and see?
I mean,
You know, it's like,
in all seriousness, I mean, we can give you Jason's number. He probably won't text it.
yeah, don't text me, call me.
He knew I was not in crisis, so he when he answered my text. But
You got to call me.
Now, and all joking aside, right now the number is going on there. Absolutely, if you're in need and you can't talk to a friend, you need to call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255, or you can chat online now at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. There's tons of people out there. I mean, what you said is a great message. We always want to talk about this because people are different, right? So, you know, like I can't imagine myself calling the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Just not who I am, but I have, you know, places now that there's many people I've called. You know, I know I can call people and they'll pick up and answer. I know that I can talk to people, and that's the key thing is you can talk to people. And it absolutely is important to be vulnerable. It is important to talk about it because, like we've talked about many times on this show, I feel like it's a bad decision. I mean, it's just how I look at it. I get yelled at by some people by saying that, but I just think it's a bad decision. There's other decisions out there that can rectify the problem. Suicide is not the option.
Yeah, it's so final, and you know, what I've learned is, you know, anybody that takes their life and they think that's like, they get the idea, okay, this is how I can end all this. They're just passing it down to every single person that cares about them, and it's heavy and it's more confusing for them. But there's just so many people that care about you that you don't realize, and there's so many people out there that have you know, shared experiences that can relate to you and have, you know, been lost and literally see that there's no way out. And you know, the old term in the Army is just, what's the 25-meter target? What's one thing I can control that if I can tackle this, it's going to take some of that weight off. So don't worry about the 300-meter target that's all the way out there that feels like the mountain you can't climb. Just focus on that thing, that next thing, you know, solve that problem, do what you can to solve that problem. And you're going to figure out that the skies are a lot bluer on the other end of that. Just that first one. And, you know, after a while building up momentum, just, you know, getting rid of some of that weight, you know, piece by piece by piece, you know, and you don't have to do it alone. But once, you know, it's not going to take long for you to realize that, you know, it was never a mountain to begin with. You know, it was just you in your head, and, you know, anybody can do it. Literally anybody can make it through that stuff.
So back to your journey. You talked about you thought about taking your life. Mm-hmm. What drove you that? Because we talked for about an hour 40 minutes about you being super happy, no regrets on what you're doing. You know, you didn't regret any decision you made. What made Jason finally say, "Holy shit,
yeah,
I do have regret"? Because that's you know.
Okay.
You choose to answer it. You can have more if you need to, but.
I like the Dickel better.
Have some more Dickel.
I'm good, man. All right. So, I mean, when I went through SFAS and came back home, the marriage that I was in was over, and I didn't know it yet. So I came back to just a mountain of questions, a mountain of like, what the hell's, you know, and through that process of, you know, that marriage ending, I lost access to my daughter. And that was like, you know, since she was born, I was so hyper focused on making sure she had a good life. And now, like, losing her, what it felt like losing her, I was like, I got nothing, you know. I'd gotten in some trouble with work over the whole thing too. It was a really like terrible situation for me to be in. You know, I'm sleeping in the barracks with none of my shit. You know, I don't have a car. All my money's gone. Like it was as bad as it could have been for me at that moment. That's what it felt like. So, you know, I go into work dealing with all this stuff. One of my soldiers messes up something super small. I don't remember what it was. So, I mean, I know it was just something little. I'm going off on this kid, and I have like tears in my eyes, and my platoon sergeant like pulls me into his office, and he's like, "Dude, you're jacked up," you know. And he was trying to be supportive, but he was like, you know, go to the barracks, stay there, come back when you're ready. I don't want to see you for at least 2 weeks. So I go to the barracks, and I'm drinking myself silly and dealing with emotions, which I've never been good at in the first place. And I'm like 25 years old at this time. And I get the idea like, oh, dude, I can just, take a bunch of pills and jump off the roof and that's it. Everybody be better off and I won't have all this stress. And I just was like, okay, what's Aubrey look like today? My daughter, what's she going to look like a year from now? What's she going to look like 10 years from now? And thinking about how important she was, started me in the right direction. This all was like within like 6 hours of going down this, like it's not something I dwelled on much, but once it hit me, like I get obsessive about things. So just like I want to go do, whatever mission, now I got this idea, but then I was like, okay, well, what am I going to look like in a year? What options will I have in 10 years from now? So it started with like loving my daughter enough. And then I was like, dude, I'm not perfect, but I like me a lot, like I'm good enough to at least keep going and see what's next. And that's what really pulled me out of the rut.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thanks for asking an easy question.
Easy. I mean, you've been blowing through all the questions that you know was coming. I mean, so I told you we were going to talk about it. I mean,
I didn't take notes. I don't have red on my notebook.
Yeah, no, the red is like there's a lot of red on this, but no, but I mean, all joking aside, that this is what has to happen for this epidemic to change. People have to talk about it. People have to put down the remove the mask or put down the armor and tell the truth of how they feel. And that's very impactful. I can't thank you enough for being vulnerable to share that. I didn't know if you were going to answer that. I really,
it's a wild card.
No, I really appreciate it. It's an honor for you to share that. I don't take that lightly. It is the key of being able to do that. And this is, what my vision of this podcast became, is for people to tell the truth, to be honest and vulnerable. And that's the only way we change this in my mind. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because a lot of people look at it like, your history, your story, if people listen to it, it's had a lot of adversity, right? A lot of stuff, the true story is like if people look at it and I'll just say someone, if I were to make it a assessment of what drove you to, I would, like I said before, I said your identity, right? Completely wrong. It was your daughter, right? Missing that your daughter. That's a total different thing than what I thought it would be. If you look at your career, you've been through a lot. You have a lot of great things to show someone. Obviously, look at where you're at now with your daughter. You're close enough to her that she's driving you crazy, like a normal teenager. So
she is the best.
It's a great
honestly, she is the best.
So it does take that. I mean, my struggles with suicide have always been that I consider it to be a failure, right? Like if I did that, then the system won, right? But and those are the people I always look back with the times that I've thought about it. Or almost acted on it. My family has been the reason why. How does my family look? Yeah. So that's I can't tell everybody's situation. I'm not a counselor, but I think the key thing is, like you did before, to be vulnerable. Like a lot of the other guests have been, is to tell the truth, continue to tell your story, not hide behind it. Right? It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Right? You said that earlier, right? It absolutely is. It is okay to have these feelings, no matter what we've achieved in life, how bigger than life we people think we are, how great things are going. Not everybody knows anything until nobody knows anything until you tell them, right? And that's one of the things I think our culture, we don't like to talk about the difficult stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, and even going back to like what you're talking about, like, if you are the type of person that has that, like I have to provide, I have to keep safe things that are like, that I cherish with my life, if that's not enough, it's like, okay, well, whatever your dream was growing up, you're going to give up on that forever. There's no reason to. You can still chase whatever dream you have. You can like make goals for yourself and, see what the world has to offer you. And it doesn't always have to be about what we can offer the world also. Like the world, there's a lot of good out there too. And just hitting, the forever stop button, just it takes away so much experience that you can have for yourself and so many experiences that you can give to others. And the thing that is, I think, the courage to tell the truth and be honest and be open, it does take a lot of courage, and everybody has it in them. Everybody has the ability to to share how they're feeling, and there's somebody out there that wants to listen. I mean, there's the wrong people to listen to, but you have to keep looking. Don't give up until you find that person that really you can talk to about it, because it is an epidemic that needs to end. It's crazy.
And I promise if you can talk to yourself, you can talk to somebody else. So don't ever worry, like, I don't think I can get the words out, or I don't know how to say it. If you can talk to yourself in your head, you can talk to yourself, or you can talk to somebody else out there. So like Chase said, just eventually you'll find the right person and you'll get lucky and have somebody give you something back. And if more people are having more honest discussions, like what you're saying, it won't be so like far-fetched for you to find somebody that's actually going to listen to the struggles and hear them.
No, I mean, it's true. And I think for us, we don't talk about it. We talk about stuff. We get around, we talk about the 40,000 foot, thing. We talk, we tell stories, we tell all this kind of stuff. We don't start digging about how we felt. Like what was it like to go to Afghanistan? We stay in this thing. We don't start diving in about like, oh my God, I cried myself to sleep because I was with my kids. I left my wife with 2 kids under the age of 3. I hated myself for that. We don't talk about that. We're just like, oh, it's great. We did this.
We ate MREs, lifted weights.
Whatever. But that's important to talk about that, because you never know who you've connected with, right? That same person's, had that feeling or felt that way and it needs to talk about it. So the courage is in all of us to get it out. You just have to take that leap of faith and do it. So, but I do appreciate you sharing that. It's a true honor to have you share that and share that with me and obviously here on the podcast. It means the world to me. I appreciate it, brother. And if you haven't listened to this, and if you're listening to it later, we're going to start winding the podcast down. But if you haven't listened to this, you need to. This is a guy who's taken a lot of lumps in life, literally bumps, bruises, and you can get through it. Like, if you were to look at all the things that have happened if you've listened tonight and looked at it on paper like I have, there's a lot of reasons that you could have said, I quit a long time ago. That shows a lot about your character. It shows a great example to other people. Life is about getting knocked down. It's about and getting back up. So I think your career, 13 years, has shown that. It's more than anybody I've probably heard in a long time. I mean, I've heard these stories from other people, but yours is definitely unique. We're gonna have to off camera get with Dan and figure out the number of surgeries you've had. Maybe there's some Olympic record or Guinness Book record that we don't know about. But no, you should be proud of yourself for not giving up. And people that listen, this is exactly what it is. I mean, you've had every reason to check out from the very beginning since you enlisted, and have very opportunities to say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. No. You should have said no to some of the stuff before. I'm just telling you. That's the dad in me.
Dude, but remember, I said that at the very beginning. You know what I mean? No, I tapped out.
Yeah.
I tapped out. And as soon as I tapped out, I was like, didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I'm, anybody else thinking about tapping out, man, like thinking about giving up, just there's so much more on the other side. Just figure it out, and maybe your goal changes, right? But don't ever give up on like a real dream. Just go after it and go hard until you can't go hard anymore.
And don't listen to them when they tell you no either.
Yeah.
They know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't wait for your parents to be like, we told you 17 times what to do.
You're going to have like 90 comments on this.
No combatives. Give up
just
combatives.
I
think if you would give up the combatives, you would have been at least how many, maybe like 3 injuries less?
No, 2. But my dad still rocks the combatives tournament champion t-shirt. I will come over to his house sometimes and he's wearing it. I'm like, yes.
Kid. Yeah. He can't do it now, but he could. No, I'm joking. No, that's crazy. Hey, you just had back surgery.
I can't even touch my toes right now.
Let's try something a little bit less physical.
Katie puts my socks on for me.
You're over there. Let's just get through the back injury here, then we'll figure something out. Maybe a little bit less in back. Let's work about getting back into volleyball next summer.
Yeah, I'll be ready in February.
Yeah, great. Dude, you ain't playing in that. We should put. We'd be a hell of a team. We have Joe who's working out. He can barely.
We can only have 3 guys and then 3 girls. So I don't know who's making the switch.
We need to put together a team though. We did promise Katie that we will do a Pours with Patriot team. We didn't say we were playing. So this is one of our plans as a sponsored team. We want to know how much we can win to figure out our sponsorship. We may bring in some ringers, maybe some Olympic champions.
I mean, OSU has great volleyball teams.
Let's start recruiting. Hey, we didn't say we had to play. We said we had to field a team. So one of us will be in there every play.
Just a mascot.
The other 5 people, that'll be great. No, but speaking of that, there is another tournament coming up that I did want to promote. Our sisters, what they're doing, we love what they're doing, and we talk about it many times, and I can't be happier to have you guys down there. Every time you guys come down here, it's awesome. It really means a lot. So there is a tournament coming February 2nd. Third. I'm sorry, third. Okay. It's up there on the screen now. Everybody knows it now. We can read. Look at that graphics we did. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I had to dive in there. So yeah, it's very green. I can't figure out where they were getting the yellow green from, but it's very nice. So $25 per person. They're going to have doubles, $50. It's easy math. Sixes, we're talking volleyball terms, $150. You can go online to get your tickets. We're going to post this on Ports of Patriots as well to do that. But again, this is put on by Spike the Stigma Men the Mind. Our favorite ladies run on that. So we'll be there. The guys don't know that yet. We're going to have to figure out what that is. We only need about a week to figure it out. We'll be there in support of it. But another great cause. Definitely go out there and you better not be playing it. You got to be shut down.
We'll see.
You're shut down.
What is it that Dave Chappelle said?
What's that?
Was it Dave Chappelle? Cocaine to the head. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I don't know. There's a lot of editing that's going to have to happen.
We had a Chappelle incident down in the basement that I still am not fully over that. You brought it up. I mean, we after the podcast, you can't see it if you've never seen it, but we have a gigantic TV we're looking at.
Oh,
right, you'd agree. This TV.
Yeah.
So one night
it's decent. If you're,
it's all right. I mean, it's all right. But we decided to put on the Chappelle show, and we have and we had some people down here that are a little bit younger, older guys. Like Chappelle isn't for everybody. It should be, but times have changed. But we were watching some episodes of Chappelle, and one of the guys down here just went. Nate, we're gonna say his name, just lost it about one of the classic episodes.
Yeah, lost it in a bad way.
Yeah, he was just like, "This isn't even funny. This is ridiculous. This is jumped at sharks."
Come on, Nate.
And he literally left. Like it was within 30 seconds. So I don't know. It's been long enough that we can talk about Chappelle. So we can have Chappelle quotes, but I mean he didn't like it. He was talking about Rick James. He thought the Rick James episode.
That's one of the best ones.
I know. He was like, "This isn't even funny," and we're like, "Oh God." So we haven't allowed Nate to come back here. He's in Hawaii. No, I'm kidding. But he does. That wasn't Chappelle. That was the episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Rick James. Yeah.
Fucking
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. No, but yeah, if you can make it out there, if not, it's a good thing. So anything I'm missing about it? Just normal tournament?
Nope, normal tournament. Yeah.
Just normal tournament.
Smaller than July.
What's that?
Smaller.
Small, yeah, smaller. I mean, they can throw a big party. She's promised a big party, but we're hoping it is. But no, more importantly, just to go out and support them. In Woodland's backyard, it'll be fun. Ports of Patriot will be out there. We'll figure out something to bring to the table. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Again, thank you for your vulnerability. Thanks for the laughs. It's good to finally have you at the microphone.
The adults table.
Yeah, even though you were late, first person to be late ever for a bathroom break.
When I looked,
but I did have to leave in the middle of an episode for a bathroom, so
that's disgusting.
It was bad.
Why would you do that?
I can't believe I brought it up. You gotta talk about it. I wasn't proud about it. So before we close out, we're going to honor tonight's Patriot, who unfortunately took their life tonight. We're going to honor U.S. Marine Corps Major John Francis Rucco, who's 40 years old. John took his life on February 7th, 2005, while stationed at Camp Pendleton, California. John was born November 1st, 1964 in Lexington, Massachusetts. John graduated from the University of Massachusetts and was commissioned in the United States Marine Corps in 1989. In 1992, he earned his aviator wings and was trained on the AH-1W Super Cobra. During his career, John deployed to Somalia, Yugoslavia, and Iraq. John served as an exchange flight instructor for the U.S. Air Force, where he flew the T-37. While deployed to Iraq, John flew 75 combat missions in support of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. John's awards include the Meritorious Service Medal with Gold Star, the Air Combat Medal with Strike Force Strike Flight numeral 3, and the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal. John was an avid outdoorsman who loved to hunt and fish. He was active in his son's sports teams, helping to coach whenever possible. John was widely known for his sense of humor and his impersonations, particularly of Elvis. John is survived by his wife, Kimberly, sons Joey and Billy, parents Nicholas and Mary, his brothers Joe, Nick, and Neil, and numerous other family members. And if you or someone you know is considering suicide, you absolutely need to contact the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can actually text 838-255, or like I said earlier, you can chat now at veteranscrisishotline.net/chat. So that's going to bring us to the conclusion of episode 47. Thanks for coming on, Jason. Like always, you're always welcome to come be in the little kids table back there.
Appreciate it.
Well, I promise next time we'll be drinking a little bit more than we are today, which bad idea for the podcast. But but again, thanks for coming in. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for your vulnerability. And most importantly, thanks for your service, brother.
Thank you for saying it, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me out.
We will see everybody in a couple weeks. Thanks. Have a great night.